captures the attention of a young man watching. The news reports that S-rank magician Lee Seo-jun died during a mission, leaving the viewer shocked and questioning it. The broadcast explains Lee Seo-jun was killed by an evil dragon in downtown Seoul while subduing a creature named Kroas, and the viewer denies what he hears. The report recounts Lee Seo-jun's career as a young magician who debuted in 2034 before this fatal incident. It adds that he solved many incidents, was loved by the public, and memorial altars will be set up nationwide. The announcer notes the nation's shock at Lee Seo-jun's death as the viewer switches off the TV. The viewer, holding the remote, says the news is unbelievable. He wonders if the story's protagonist can really die at this point in the narrative. He doubts the news can be real, thinking about Lee Seo-jun who was just announced dead. A flashback begins with hands gripping a weapon, signaling Lee Seo-jun in action. The narration describes Lee Seo-jun as a 25-year-old genius magician fighting monsters. It calls him a young hero acclaimed by the entire era. The viewpoint character reveals that the more critical fact is Lee Seo-jun is his former classmate and the protagonist of the novel Modern Magician that defines this world. We see Lee Seo-jun at school with his friends, confirming he is the central hero of Modern Magician. The narrator recalls that if events had followed the original novel, everything would end happily and he expected to return to his original world. Instead, an ominous purple dragon appears, implying a divergence from the original plot. Watching Lee Seo-jun's death on TV, the narrator panics, asking why the protagonist is dying here. He asks what will happen now that the story has gone off the rails. He recalls how he once believed he would see his real-world friends again when the novel ended. In that past memory, he and friends discuss transmigrating as extras in a novel and whether to seize the protagonist's opportunities. Drunk and animated, he insists he would never intervene like that because it would be crazy. He argues that if an extra interferes and causes the protagonist's death, it would ruin everything, so he himself would not step up. He adds that being the protagonist means enduring every hardship and he lacks that diligence, which his friends grudgingly admit is true. They tease him for being annoying but toast together anyway. His phone vibrates in his pocket, catching his attention. He sees he has apparently won some kind of promotional event, and his friends excitedly ask what it is. A message introduces itself as from the author of Modern Magician, congratulating Kim Se-woo on winning an event. The prize is described as a travel voucher to a special place, asking if he wants to claim it. Delighted, Se-woo shows his friends that he is being sent on a trip and they marvel at his luck. Wondering where he will be sent, he presses the yes button. Overjoyed, he raises his phone as light shines, signifying that the event is activating. He narrates that just like that, 7 years ago, something happened to him. We see him materializing inside a magical spell circle as confused magicians shout not to step into it mid-casting. He explains he was dropped into the novel Modern Magician that he loved reading, and now realizes the story's contents have become twisted. Because he believed the original plot must stay intact, he only acted around the edges of the main story. Now, after Lee Seo-jun's sudden death, he wonders what went wrong as his TV begins to glitch. Concerned, he asks why this is happening again while watching the interference. He approaches and grips the flickering TV screen. Suddenly he is jolted and startled as some force erupts from it. Through his window he sees purple lights filling the sky and city, just as before, and cries out in fright. He rushes to look outside more closely. His eyes widen in horror at what he sees. On the street, people are disintegrating into particles of light while using their phones. The entire intersection is filled with purple beams dissolving pedestrians, and he exclaims in disbelief. More people around the city vanish in the same way. Overwhelmed, he screams, asking why this is happening. A red system window appears declaring Lee Seo-jun has died and all main scenarios have failed, shocking him. The notification repeats that Lee Seo-jun is dead and all main scenarios are considered failed. Another system message declares scenario progression impossible and announces the world will be reset. As reality fractures around him, he mutters in confusion. His body begins to crack apart like glass. The shattering accelerates as his figure breaks. Voices call to a sleeping student, telling him to wake up because they have arrived at school. He jolts awake, gasping at being loudly called student. On a bus, the driver lightly scolds him for not getting off earlier, saying they have been at school for a while. Flustered, Se-woo apologizes, noting internally that the driver just addressed him as a student. Leaving the bus, he remembers he was definitely in his room and wonders why he woke up here. As he walks, he recalls the world collapsing and questions if it was only a dream. Shielding his eyes from the sun, he complains about the brightness. He lowers his hand, unease growing. He looks up to see the grand facade of Korea Magicians Academy and recognizes the scene. A banner congratulates new students for 2032, and he realizes this is the academy he already graduated from. He notices the year is 2032, which is 7 years in the past, and something feels wrong. Shocked, he checks himself and exclaims that this cannot be. He realizes his body is that of a younger version, further confirming his disbelief. Concluding this is crazy, he accepts that he has somehow gone back 7 years. A school announcement welcomes everyone to Korea Magicians Academy. The loudspeakers explain that the entrance and opening ceremonies will begin soon and students should take their seats. Troubled, Se-woo mutters he is going insane. Observing that everything is exactly the same as 7 years ago, he decides he has to accept this reality. He finally admits to himself that he has returned to the past. but he still cannot understand why Lee Seo-jun died when he should have survived. He notes that in the original novel there was absolutely no reason for Lee Seo-jun's death. In the true story, Crow is rampaged according to the original plot, but Lee Seo-jun subdued the dragon after a fierce battle. Therefore Seon-woo reasons that something else must explain Lee Seo-jun's unexpected death. Frustrated by the mystery, he slumps in his seat saying he really does not know. Other students sit scattered in the hall while he isolates himself. Watching his classmates, he worries what might happen if Lee Seo-jun dies again in this reset world. He wonders whether the world would simply end or if he would be forced to regress once more. Remembering the prior annihilation, he concludes he does not know the mechanics, but one thing is certain. He decides that Lee Seo-jun must not die this time and resolves to act in this life. Even just to return to his original world, he clenches his fist, determined. He vows to prevent Lee Seo-jun's death and to make sure the novel reaches its proper ending. To achieve this, he decides his first step must involve taking someone's smartphone. He turns toward a long-haired girl nearby, clearly targeting her. Putting on a friendly smile, he greets her. He thinks it would be best to get close to the main characters, eyeing the girl as one of them. She asks bluntly if he knows her, somewhat suspicious. Annoyed by his familiarity, she questions when they ever met. He keeps smiling innocently, continuing his act. She presses him on why he is speaking that way and he nervously denies having anything in particular to say. Irritated, she tells him to stop staring because it makes her uncomfortable. He realizes winning her over will not be easy. The ceremony continues as the announcer calls grade representatives to the podium. Students' footsteps echo as they descend stairs toward the stage. 3 top students from each year stand on stage before everyone. The crowd whispers in awe about Lee Seo-jun, the second-year rank 1 student whose aura and talent are overwhelming. Seon-woo notes that Lee Seo-jun is famous even as a student because Modern Magician is a story where the overpowered protagonist does everything. The audience also admires the pretty freshman top student, a girl framed with blossoms. Her eyes sharpen, revealing a composed and calculating personality. She deliberately uses her charming smile to enhance her public image while addressing the hall. Another representative, a quiet bespectacled senior, is mentioned as having held first place academically for 3 years. Seon-woo admits he knows little about this senior because their role in the original novel was minor. The announcer declares that the next part of the ceremony will be the student oath. The 3 representatives raise their hands and begin reciting the oath together. Watching from the benches, Seon-woo and the girl beside him focus on the stage. The girl's hand clenches tightly on her knee, showing tension. Seon-woo is impressed by the intense competitive energy radiating from her. He wonders if this is a chance to score points with her, and comments that it is a shame. Her eyes flare red as she sharply asks if he really just said that to her. He casually answers yes, prompting her to demand what exactly he thinks is a shame. Seon-woo gathers himself and begins to answer honestly. Up on stage, Lee Seo-jun praises the freshman girl's performance, implying she outshines some others. The dark-haired girl bristles and challenges Seon-woo, asking what he knows and whether he has ever seen the others use magic. Embarrassed, he admits he has not, and she scolds him for making baseless comments. He claims he can judge people's ability just by observing them, which surprises her. With a confident smile, he asserts that he has strong intuition. She reacts with a blank, exasperated expression, seeming unconvinced. Growing angry, she asks if he is making fun of her while he denies it. Seeing her reaction, he wonders if his approach was wrong. Changing tactics, she abruptly asks if he has been anxious about his future career path. Hearing this, Seon-woo is shocked that she has pinpointed his private worry. She calls him by name, saying he even remembered hers, suggesting a grudging recognition. Nevertheless, she curtly declares that he should not talk to her from now on. Internally, he realizes he has somehow created a bad impression. He then narrates that the Academy's first day always includes an evaluation test that publicly sets student rankings like a debut ceremony. Other students nervously discuss how unprepared they feel for the looming evaluation. Listening, Seon-woo thinks of them as cute juniors and sets his personal goal of placing in the second year's top 10. He reflects that in his previous life he once received offers for B-rank promotion, showing he is actually capable despite staying C-rank then. His pride will not let him perform only averagely against these students, so he plans to display the skills of a professional. The evaluation begins with a girl unleashing powerful ice magic. She continues her display, blasting energy outward in a dramatic attack. Training dummies rush toward her as part of the exam. Her magic obliterates the dummies, scattering them to pieces. Spectators praise her abilities, saying they would believe she was one of the Academy's top second-year students. The announcer states it is now the second year's turn and calls them up by name. Yahello demonstrates fiery magic, forming a blazing sphere in her hand. She hurls the fire, creating a massive explosion that rocks the hall. Students exclaim that Seo-jun's power looks professional level even though he is their age. Narration notes that although Lee Seo-jun overshadows everyone, Yahello is considered legendary in her own right. On stage, Lee Seo-jun prepares his weapon for his own test. He dashes forward with swift, controlled swordplay, generating powerful shockwaves. Wooden dummies are released to charge at him. His strikes cut them down in blinding flashes of light. The floor is soon littered with defeated dummies as he stands composed. From the stands, Seon-woo and Yahello watch while the crowd cheers. Seon-woo observes that Yahello's abilities are impressive as well, but he judges that Seo-jun's performance is already on par with an active professional, and that Era must be frustrated at always losing first place to him. The announcer then calls second-year student Kim Seon-woo to come forward for his turn. Rising from his seat with a confident smile, Seon-woo thinks that it is finally his moment. Teachers discuss Kim Seon-woo, noting she is a forgettable student from one teacher's class. Checking records, the teacher recalls Seon-woo was gifted in the enhancement magic system but now appears empty-handed. They conclude Seon-woo must have switched from enhancement to manifestation magic, which some students occasionally do. The narration comments that some students pursue the magic they like, not necessarily the one they are best at. Observers remark that the demonstration group looks ordinary, until one teacher suddenly notices Seon-woo. That teacher is shocked, recognizing that Seon-woo just used an advanced compression manifestation technique. The narration explains that manifestation magic begins with simple manifestation, then an advanced method compresses the power for finer release. This advanced method is identified as compression manifestation, a skill usually reserved for veteran magicians. Seon-woo looks tense as she prepares her spell. Her opponent or classmate also seems uneasy, watching her. Onlookers wonder how a second-year student can wield such a high-level technique as she fires it. Her powerful beam shoots upward and then slams into the practiced target dummy. The students in the auditorium stare in stunned silence at the display, after which she mutters a small finishing word. Classmates mock her, assuming she ran out of mana and cannot complete the full manifest and release sequence. Back in his room, the reincarnated protagonist laments that things have gone badly. Suddenly blue windows appear before him, startling him. As more windows pop up, he wonders in confusion what is happening. He realizes a system window is opening at this very moment. Later in his dorm, he sighs, thinking about the timing of events. Sitting on his bed, he wonders why this special window opened differently this life, remembering it opened around now in his previous life. He questions why events are diverging from before. He recalls how back then the system windows had appeared around the same time. He remembers the notification that the unique privilege called Outsider's Benefit had activated. Another message had declared that the main scenario of this world had begun. He had also unlocked an achievement called Second Life, earning 3,000 points. The system explains that an achievement system has activated and that he has already unlocked one called Clown's Talent. He gains 5,000 reward points and a notice that hundreds of people now remember his face as he flees the hall. Additional notices say that Lee Seo-jun and 4 main characters have taken interest in him, rewarding him with more points. Reflecting afterward, he notes that he earned a total of 10,000 points in a very short time. He deduces that to spend those points, Outsider's Benefit must have forcibly opened ahead of schedule. The narration defines Outsider's Benefit as a unique transmigrator privilege only he can use in this world. He reviews that points are gained through achievements and decides to first check how many he currently has. He adds that he can also earn points through the reputation system by becoming more famous, listing his recent fame-based rewards. Among all features of Outsider's Benefit, he considers the point shop the most attractive because it lets him buy traits, skills, and items. Despite being glad to have lots of points, he trails off, implying there is a drawback. Imagining himself as a clown on a unicycle, he grumbles that getting a talent labeled Clown's Talent feels insulting. He recalls that he had forgotten his mana pool is still low at this point in time, which caused his earlier spell failure. Even so, he notes that between both lives this is the first time he has ever received so much attention, and he earned points despite disliking the clown title. Curious about his state after regression, he calls up his ability window to see his current stats. The window shows his name, 10,000 points, and modest stats, and he complains that all the points he once invested seem to have been reset. He despairs about the work needed to raise his stats again. Then he realizes that in this new life he can reallocate his stats from scratch. The narration explains that this world has 4 magic systems: enhancement, manifestation, support, and summoning. Enhancement is defined as magic that strengthens the body or weapons for close combat. Manifestation is defined as standard magic that materializes and unleashes spells, where stamina also matters greatly. Support and summoning are defined as magic that bolsters allies or calls forth beings. He states that he chose manifestation as his specialty because he wants a cool-looking magic style. Laughing at himself, he reasons that as a manifestation user he should prioritize raising his mana stat. As he thinks this, a new blue system window appears in front of him. Reading it, he notices that the number of people who remember him has suddenly increased by 50. He calculates that a single clownish stunt can earn him a large amount of points, and decides this situation is actually favorable. Delighted, he declares this point-earning opportunity enormous. Another notification appears, prompting his surprised reaction. It reports that 400 people now recognize his face, granting him additional points, and he wonders how more people than the whole school know him. Realizing what it means, he hurriedly checks his phone. On a forum called Forest of the Great Sage, he finds a bulletin post about the second-year student who ranked last in the open test, clearly referring to him. Opening the post, he sees a video of his botched attack alongside mocking anonymous comments as it spreads online. He is embarrassed that his test video went viral but consoles himself that the resulting points are worthwhile. He wonders if even more points will come in as the video continues to spread. An idea strikes him, lighting up his eyes. He decides that with this distraction campaign online he can fully divert attention, guaranteeing a successful misdirection. Humming to himself, he plans to milk this situation for points and then buy a particular powerful item from the shop. The next day at school, Whispers fill the hall as students identify him from the viral post. Students gossip about yesterday's video while he walks through the crowd, inwardly telling them to talk as much as they like. Online, he posts a sensational headline about a scandal involving an S-rank magician, satisfied that his aggro drawing strategy worked. His new post again uses the video, questioning the standards of the academy and drawing more attention. He notes proudly that this additional exposure has earned him another 5,000 points. Later he walks into a lecture hall, his footsteps echoing. He peeks inside nervously before entering. As he appears, classmates murmur and identify him as Kim Seon-woo. Someone suddenly points directly at him from across the room. The blonde delinquent Park In-hwan greets him loudly and aggressively. Grinning, Park In-hwan slings an arm around him, saying he found yesterday's scene hilarious and that everyone laughed after Seon-woo fled. Park In-hwan and his friends mock him about running out of mana and suggest he got into the academy through donations. The narration introduces Park In-hwan as an early villainous jerk from the original novel, while he half-heartedly tells his friends not to be too harsh. Seon-woo thinks it is best to avoid getting involved with this guy and tries to stay quiet. Ignoring that, Park In-hwan threatens him, saying his new name is Idiot and demanding obedience, or his school life will be hell. Lee Seo-jun intervenes, telling Park In-hwan to stop bullying. Lee Seo-jun reminds him he was warned not to pick on underclassmen. Park In-hwan sighs in frustration. He sarcastically complains that the famed genius Lee Seo-jun is playing hero and that a nobody like him has to back off. Lee Seo-jun sternly repeats Park In-hwan's name, making it clear he is serious. Park In-hwan clicks his tongue and leaves with his entourage. After they go, Seon-woo and Lee Seo-jun stand together amid the lingering murmurs. Lee Seo-jun asks if Seon-woo is okay, and Seon-woo thanks him. Lee Seo-jun confirms his name and begins to mention yesterday's video. Seon-woo tries to brush it off, then suddenly remembers something. He admits he knows the video is spreading everywhere and feels mortified. Lee Seo-jun reassures him, saying the one who maliciously spread the video is at fault, not Seon-woo. As their brief talk ends, Lee Seo-jun says he should go. Seon-woo stops him and calls him by name. Looking down, Seon-woo nervously asks Lee Seo-jun to form a team with him. He specifically asks Lee Seo-jun to be on his team for the semester's dungeon class. Lee Seo-jun is surprised and wonders why he would agree. Seon-woo says teaming up will benefit Lee Seo-jun too. Lee Seo-jun thinks it over with a doubtful expression. He apologetically answers that he has never considered Seon-woo as a potential teammate. Seon-woo insists there are two solid reasons Lee Seo-jun should partner with him. Lee Seo-jun, now curious, agrees to listen to those reasons. Seon-woo starts by proclaiming that he ranks dead last in the entire second year. Lee Seo-jun laughs, questioning how that could be a reason. Seon-woo explains the joint tests have a balancing system, so pairing the top-ranked student with the last-ranked one yields a higher combined score. Lee Seo-jun realizes that makes sense, but internally thinks the risk of carrying last place is high. Seon-woo raises two fingers to introduce his second reason. He explains that top student UARA has already taken the two lowest-ranked students as her teammates. Lee Seo-jun acknowledges that UARA specializes in wide-area magic and could easily clear tests even with such weak partners. Seon-woo cheekily adds a third reason and prepares to state it, while Lee Seo-jun protests he promised only two. For the third reason, Seon-woo touts himself, saying that despite being last place he is actually quite capable. Lee Seo-jun cannot help but grin. Laughing, Lee Seo-jun says Seon-woo is really funny. Amused and persuaded, Lee Seo-jun agrees to form a dungeon team with him. Seon-woo is thrilled, but Lee Seo-jun adds that he has one condition. Lee Seo-jun's condition is that he gets to choose their remaining teammate, asking if Seon-woo minds. The system notes that Lee Seo-jun now feels deep interest in Seon-woo, granting him another 2,000 points as Seon-woo agrees. In History of Magic class, the teacher begins lecturing that magic's recorded history dates back to the 14th century. She explains that ancient magic originally had only two systems instead of the four used today. She says that this two-system framework later collapsed and asks the class what triggered that change. Seon-woo confidently raises his hand, and the teacher calls on him. He answers that the shift was caused by the appearance of the first enhancement type mage known as the Blood Sword, and the teacher praises him. The teacher elaborates that the Blood Sword shocked manifestation-focused mages, leading to intense research into new forms of magic. Seon-woo reflects that while such classical theory is hard for others, including Lee Seo-jun, his outsider's benefit feeds him all the answers, making him strong in written subjects. He happily continues to take exhaustive notes at high speed. Classmates whisper mockingly that he is like Hermione, wondering why someone last in rank studies so hard. Irritated, Seon-woo thinks that if they are jealous they should try answering questions themselves. Class ends and the teacher dismisses them for lunch. Students file out of the lecture hall for their break. As Seon-woo prepares to leave, someone calls out his name. He turns surprised. Lee Seo-jun approaches and suggests they eat together to celebrate becoming teammates. Seon-woo takes a cafeteria tray loaded with food. He and Lee Seo-jun enter the dining hall with their trays, looking for empty seats. Another student waves enthusiastically to get Lee Seo-jun's attention. That student, Shin Young-jin, calls Seo-jun over to his table. Seon-woo recognizes Shin Young-jin by name as another important character. Lee Seo-jun apologizes for being late, while Shin Young-jin jokes with him. The narration notes, Shin Young-jin is one of the story's main characters and Seo-jun's best friend. Shin Young-jin remarks that top-ranked students splitting up teams makes sense because pairing only elites would hurt their scores. Seo-jun and Shin Young-jin sit with Seon-woo, starting a friendly conversation. Shin Young-jin confirms that Seon-woo is the student from the viral video, and Seon-woo admits it. Seo-jun asks when they became so friendly, and Shin Young-jin replies they just decided to do dungeon exploration together. Shin Young-jin thinks for a moment, slightly confused but accepting it. Whispering, he asks Seo-jun why he bothers with a last place buff when he could get first place without it. Seo-jun explains that Uara is upset, implying rivalry, and Seon-woo asks why she is involved. Shin Young-jin says Uara chose the 2 bottom-ranked students as her teammates, showing how intense she is. They decide to stop overthinking and just enjoy their meal, and Seon-woo agrees since he is hungry. The trio eat together while nearby students watch and gossip. A girl named Seo-yoon notices Seon-woo and realizes he is the student featured on the Forest of the Great Sage forum. Her friend asks what she is staring at, and Seo-yoon brushes it off, claiming it is nothing. She laughs it away with an overly cheerful smile. Once her friend looks away, Seo-yoon stares seriously at Seon-woo, clearly intrigued by him. Classmates gossip and wonder how Kim Sun-woo managed to get close to the top student Lee Seo-jun. In a large training hall, students practice different types of mana usage under supervision. Sun-woo decides to control his mana carefully, and initiates a manifestation spell. He forms a glowing mana sphere and moves to emit it. He then manipulates the emitted mana, sending a large stream of energy across the hall. The mana blast crashes powerfully, creating a loud impact. Watching students remark that his performance is better than expected. Sun-woo, hearing their comments, thinks to himself that he can hear everything. He recalls that before regressing in time, he used his points to buy stat increases. At first he happily spent points on many stats and items, feeling stronger. But he realized prices rose with each purchase, like higher levels needing more experience in a game. He ponders this problem. He concludes it is better long-term to use traits or items that increase mana growth and searches the shop for mana-related options. Scanning the results, he looks for a specific powerful mana trait he remembers from the novel. He finds the A-rank trait Protection of Great Nature, which boosts mana gain from training and recovery speed. He focuses on the passive effect that can grant up to 150% extra mana from training. He also equips a B-rank Returner's wristwatch that hugely accelerates health and mana regeneration. He thinks how he bought these by selling his inherited Master Chef trait, exchanging that cooking talent for points. Even though selling it felt wasteful, he acknowledges that buying Great Nature and the wristwatch was worthwhile. He notes with satisfaction that his new starting point is much better than in his previous life. His phone suddenly vibrates, surprising him since he rarely gets messages. He pulls out the phone to check who is contacting him. Seeing the notification, he is startled and wonders what it is. He discovers he has been added to a Team 3 group chat with Seo-jun and several classmates. Sun-woo notes he only recognizes Yoon Ha-young among the invited members and wonders if the others are low-ranked. He remembers that Ha-young becomes an important character later, but currently her potential and role are still small. In the group, Seo-jun asks everyone to share their specialties for the upcoming teamwork. Through chat, Ji-hyuk, Ha-young, and Jin-tae list their main and secondary magic types and attributes. Sun-woo replies that he is also manifestation type but with no attribute. Ji-hyuk jokes that everyone at school already knows Sun-woo is a manifestation type, embarrassing him. Sun-woo proposes that Lee Seo-jun act as the main attacker while the rest of the team supports him. He thinks that to get first place they must outperform Uara's team and wonders who she chose as teammates. Later, during outdoor practice, students fire magic at targets while instructors observe. An instructor advises a student to focus less on fine manipulation and more on emission by releasing mana more forcefully. Uara calmly gathers blazing mana in her hand, preparing to attack. She unleashes a massive fiery blast, demonstrating overwhelming power. Onlookers, including teachers, are amazed by her innate talent and skill. One female teacher watches thoughtfully, analyzing the student's abilities. She judges that while Ara is impressive, her technique is still immature and needs refinement. Comparing with other students, she thinks another girl's mana usage is also somewhat lacking. The teacher then notices something surprising in Sun-woo's demonstration. His sharp mana beam shoots forward with great speed and precision. She reassesses him, thinking his performance is actually quite good. Sun-woo is pleased that his efforts are paying off. The teacher recalls that earlier Ha-young was so obsessed with manifestation that she failed at emission. Now she observes Sun-woo handling both emission and manipulation efficiently with very little mana. She reflects that recognizing and correcting one's own flaws at his age is difficult, making his growth notable. Pleased, she smiles warmly at his progress. Evening falls over the academy grounds as the day's practice ends. The instructor dismisses the specialty class and thanks the students for their hard work. The students disperse, chatting that the class was fun and relieves some stress as they head off to rest. As Sun-woo is about to leave, the female teacher calls his name. She praises his effort and asks if he has been consistently training on his own time, which he confirms. She specifically asks whether he is regularly cultivating his mana. Sun-woo realizes she has noticed that his mana reserves lag behind his technique. He lies that he is maintaining his mana training routine. She tells him that while his skills are good, his mana capacity is lacking and can only be improved through steady effort. Sun-woo earnestly promises to try his best from now on. The teacher hands him a bracelet, explaining it helps with mana breathing and maintaining condition. He hesitates, unsure whether he should accept such a gift. She reassures him it is only an inexpensive F-rank practice item and tells him not to feel burdened. He gratefully accepts the bracelet, and she reminds him class is over and sends him on his way. Walking away, Sunwoo happily thinks of the bracelet as unexpected loot. He spots Ara waiting alone by a wall and wonders why she is there. Ara calls out sharply to him, addressing him by name. He nervously asks if it is okay for her to talk to him since she previously told him not to. She demands confirmation that he has teamed up with Lee Seojun, surprising him. She accuses him of trying to ride on the coattails of the top-ranked Seojun but declares that first place will belong to her. She tells him bluntly to stop dreaming and wake up. Ara turns and walks off, leaving Sunwoo standing there stunned. He shudders, thinking about how frightening and overly sensitive she is. The scene shifts to Thursday morning as students gather outside the academy's artificial dungeon. Sunwoo runs up in a tracksuit, relieved that he arrived just in time for the dungeon class. Seojun cheerfully notes this is their first time all assembled like this and encourages everyone to work hard this semester. The group responds upbeat, agreeing to do their best together. Ji-hyuk remarks that their team's composition feels odd. He points out they have both the highest-ranked and lowest-ranked students on the same team, which Sunwoo finds borderline insulting. Ji-hyuk then questions whether Sunwoo will even perform well, reminding him he failed to cast a spell in the last test. Sunwoo realizes Ji-hyuk's comment was definitely sarcastic. Another teammate shrugs it off, saying Seojun invited Sunwoo and will carry the team anyway. Sunwoo internally thinks that this teammate clearly intends to coast off Seojun's strength. He reflects that Hayoung's big spotlight event is still far away and muses that his joining has altered the original team roster. Looking at his somewhat unreliable teammates, he worries whether they will manage to clear the upcoming exam. The students march toward the dungeon entrance in their boots. An instructor calls for attention and begins explaining how the dungeon exploration class will work. He states the class will run twice that day, morning and afternoon, and that they will only explore the first basement floor now. He then describes how the exploration will be scored. The first criterion is dungeon clear speed, with faster teams earning more bonus points. The second criterion is a rank balancing score that awards extra points for working with lower-ranked teammates. Finally, he says contribution will be evaluated as well. He explains that the artificial dungeon tracks each student's contributions and awards additional points based on individual impact. He orders everyone to prioritize safety, then sends the teams into the dungeon, while teachers wish them a safe trip. Inside a control room, many screens display live footage from different parts of the dungeon. Teachers gather there and chat as one arrives, saying he came right after sending students inside. A female teacher suggests they bet on which team will earn the highest score, expecting most to choose UARA's group. Another teacher admits he also chose Team 7, ARA's team, so the bet might not work. The glasses-wearing teacher's eyes gleam with an idea. She declares the bet is still on because she will instead support Team 3, the one with Lee Seojun. Another teacher notes both Seojun and ARA chose weaker teammates to maximize the balancing score but with different compositions. The glasses teacher analyzes that Seojun's team is unstable and that as an enhancement type he cannot easily handle many enemies alone without proper backup. They compare this to UARA, whose wide area magic lets her team advance quickly, already reaching the middle of the first floor. Despite that, the glasses teacher says she likes cheering for underdogs and wants to see which team wins. Inside the dungeon, Seojun effortlessly slays a large beast with his sword. Elsewhere, another student team walks through a vermin-infested corridor. Seojun tells his teammates it is time to move on and leads Team 3 deeper into the dungeon. His teammates praise his combat skills and note they are already halfway through the floor. They casually speculate what kind of boss will appear on the first floor, assuming it will be a weak monster. The discussion continues, joking about small fry like rats or dogs while wondering if a boss should not be stronger. Hayoung asks Sunwoo what he thinks the boss will be, and he confidently answers that a giant wolf will appear. Ji-hyuk demands to know how Sunwoo could possibly know that, while Sunwoo thinks it is because he has already experienced this in his previous life. Ji-hyuk dismisses him as a blatant liar. Sunwoo retorts that they can believe him or not, and Ji-hyuk mockingly says he does not believe him at all. Seojun laughs and tells them to stop bickering so they can keep moving, and Sunwoo reluctantly agrees. The team continues walking together through the corridor. Seojun suddenly tells everyone to stop, prompting questions about what is wrong. He says there is something on the floor ahead, drawing everyone's attention. The others look down, puzzled, and ask what he means about the floor. They see a glowing magic circle on the ground but cannot identify its function. Worried, they wonder why a magic circle is present, and whether it might be dangerous, doubting the school would expose them to real risk. Sunwoo crouches down near the circle to examine it more closely. Seojun calls out for him to be careful, but Sunwoo says he just wants to take a look. Studying it, Sunwoo silently appraises the pattern. He concludes aloud that it seems to be a simple barrier spell and not extremely dangerous, which confuses Ji-hyuk. Internally, Sunwoo knows this because he encountered the exact same barrier in his previous life. He begins injecting mana into the circle, activating his abilities. When he successfully stabilizes it, he smugly points out to Ji-hyuk that he was right. Another teammate complains that they still cannot pass and wonders if they must turn back, asking for an alternative. Seojun decides to try cutting through the barrier with his mana-imbued sword and tells everyone to step back. He focuses intensely, channeling power into his blade. He unleashes a powerful slash at the barrier. The strike collides with the barrier, causing a bright explosion of light. For a moment the others think it worked and cheer, but the barrier only cracks slightly before reforming, leaving them disappointed. Seo-jun believes it might still be possible with the proper technique. Ji-hyuk wonders aloud if it is his turn to contribute. Boasting of his support-type abilities, Ji-hyuk steps forward. He confidently places his hand on the magic circle, intending to dismantle it. Mana flows from his hand into the circle as he starts working. Almost immediately he realizes the formula is more complex than expected. Flustered, he admits it might take 40 minutes to solve but promises to try, as Sunwoo tells him to move aside. Sunwoo says he will handle the magic circle himself, and puts his hands over it. Ji-hyuk panics and shouts, asking what Sunwoo thinks he is doing. Sunwoo fully presses both hands onto the magic circle to engage it. His unique Trade Outsider's benefit automatically activates as he interacts with the spell. A system interface appears, interpreting the magic formula while Sunwoo watches. The interface begins arranging fragmented text describing the barrier circle. Sunwoo starts selecting and rearranging the pieces of text. He discerns that the circle belongs to the Korea Mage Academy's artificial dungeon and generally understands its purpose. The system then summarizes its analysis, stating this is a low-difficulty first-floor barrier whose boss is a giant wolf. Armed with that knowledge, Sunwoo channels energy through his hand and bracelet into the magic circle to neutralize it. The group watches in shock as a glowing blue barrier in front of them suddenly dissolves. Sunwoo turns back to his teammates, proudly declaring he succeeded in dispelling the barrier. His classmates stare in disbelief and repeat that his attempt actually worked. System messages notify Sunwoo that Lee Seo-jun is surprised by him, feels goodwill, and his interest in Sunwoo is rising. Another message grants Sunwoo 5,000 points for reaching Lee Seo-jun's first interest level, leaving Sunwoo puzzled about what interest level means. A clawed monster paw slams down as something dangerous activates. The students see a menacing silhouette of a large wolf boss appearing at the top of the stairs. The red-eyed giant wolf, boss of the first floor, charges toward them. One teammate nervously realizes events are unfolding exactly as Sunwoo predicted. The giant wolf leaps high into the air to attack the waiting students. Seo-jun focuses intensely, eyes glowing as he prepares to counter the boss. A powerful burst of light and energy strikes the wolf. Seo-jun's blazing sword attack slams into the monster with overwhelming force. Bathed in golden aura, Seo-jun finishes his move, looking composed and powerful. The classmates excitedly praise Seo-jun for casually defeating the boss like it was nothing. Massive stone doors slowly open, signaling the end of the trial. The team walks out of the dungeon, celebrating that the ordeal is finally over. Outside, an instructor congratulates Team 3 and announces they placed second for the first week. Curious, a teammate asks who placed first, and hears that Team 7 cleared the dungeon half an hour earlier. Seo-jun recognizes that the top team is led by UARA. The boys check rankings on their phones, amazed by UARA's incredibly fast clear time and worried about being overtaken by others. Someone taps Sunwoo's shoulder, catching his attention. Seo-jun smiles and thanks Sunwoo, saying their second place result was thanks to him. Sunwoo downplays his contribution, but Seo-jun insists that without his quick barrier dispel they would have fallen further behind. Seo-jun modestly says he should have gotten first place, while another teammate insists they only finished so quickly because of him. The group reassures each other that it is only week 1 and floor 1, and they can make a comeback later. A female teacher approaches and calls out for student Kim Sunwoo. Sunwoo answers, internally recognizing her as the support-type teacher in charge. She says she has a proposal for him, and he asks what it is. Bursting with excitement, she urges Kim Sunwoo to transfer immediately to the support department. Sunwoo, startled while she clasps his hands, can only respond in confusion. He calmly but firmly refuses, saying he does not want to transfer. Flustered, the teacher begs him not to reject her without even hearing the conditions and asks him to listen first. She offers him a special talent scholarship of 50 million won, then asks if he is still uninterested, and Sunwoo flatly says he is not. As the dejected teacher walks away, classmates rush up and ask Sunwoo why he turned down such a generous offer. Other students gossip that since Sunwoo is bad at manifestation anyway, they would have transferred to support without hesitation. Ueara quietly asks him if he truly has no intention of switching departments. Sunwoo looks away, not answering immediately, while nearby students watch him anxiously. Ueara comments that special talents receive many benefits beyond scholarships, and onlookers whisper, recognizing her presence. Sunwoo politely thanks her for the concern but reiterates that he is a manifestation type and intends to stay that way. Ueara is taken aback by his answer, clearly surprised. Time passes as the scene shifts to a peaceful view of the academy building under a bright sky. Inside the building, a girl walks along the corridor, heels clicking on the wooden floor. Her eyes widen as she suddenly notices someone ahead. She recognizes the person walking in front of her and reacts with curiosity. The person turns out to be Sunwoo, casually mopping the hallway, who greets her. The girl cheerfully greets him as Senior Kim Shin-wook. Clearly mistaking his name, Sunwoo corrects her, saying he is Kim Sunwoo, not Shin-wook, and she apologizes while asking why he is cleaning. Sunwoo explains he is cleaning simply because the area was dirty, as she watches the now sparkling floor. Impressed, she gushes that he is very kind for doing such work. She waves goodbye, telling him to keep up the good work as she leaves. Once out of earshot, she thinks to herself that his cleaning is pointless, while a system notice awards Sunwoo this Snail Bride achievement. Another notice grants him 1,000 points, and he internally wonders how he could ever admit he cleaned just to earn that achievement. Finishing up, he lifts the bucket and remarks that at least the cleaning is done. Humming contentedly, Sunwoo walks away with his bucket, unaware that someone is secretly watching him from behind. A male teacher peeks out from behind a wall, smiling warmly at Sunwoo's behavior. In a lecture hall, a professor begins a class by explaining that there are many different kinds of monsters. The professor elaborates that monsters can be humanoid, animal-like, flying, and more, pointing at a projected creature. He then says the most dangerous monsters are those called manes. The teacher asks the class if anyone knows why manes are especially dangerous. Sunwoo answers that because manes look indistinguishable from humans unless they reveal themselves or are about to go berserk, they are hard to detect. The professor confirms this, describing manes as the root of evil that drinks human blood, controls monsters, and has already infiltrated human society. He further explains that without special equipment manes look exactly like humans, but in certain situations their eyes turn black, which makes Sunwoo think uneasily about them. Sunwoo recalls that in the original story, a mane is supposed to appear for the first time this very weekend. He remembers how, in that storyline, Seo Joon-lee draws public attention by defeating a mane despite still being a student. Sunwoo assumes Seo Joon will handle that incident well, but decides he should still check for dangerous variables just in case. He visualizes a terrifying demonic figure while resolving to search for any threats around him. His thoughts shift to a scene of someone cowering amid dark energy, emphasizing the danger manes represent. Sunwoo then worries about money, realizing he needs funds if he wants to accompany Seo Joon on outside missions. Shadows creep near the academy ceiling, hinting at approaching danger as the atmosphere grows ominous. Later, during meditation practice, students sit cross-legged while Sunwoo forms a glowing sphere of mana at his core. Concentrating, he gathers more mana, the energy swirling brighter around his body. System windows appear, telling him his magic power has slightly increased and that his blessing of the great nature trait boosted the gain. More messages say his training progress for that trait has jumped by 12%, and Sunwoo stretches happily, feeling he has accumulated a lot of mana. He turns as another notification suddenly appears beside him. The system states that the grade of his blessing of the great nature trait has risen to level 2. A further message explains that this unlocked a new active effect called Heart of the Great Nature. Delighted, Sunwoo congratulates himself for having chosen Blessing of the Great Nature as his trait. He reviews the skill description, noting that Heart of the Great Nature massively boosts mana recovery for 1 minute despite its long cooldown, and decides he can use it freely when necessary. Smugly, he reinforces to himself that he really is a manifestation-type mage. He recalls the support teacher's desperate plea for him to transfer departments, which fuels his determination. Walking alone, Sunwoo thinks breaking barriers is only possible because he knows the story as an outsider, and that he cannot actually create barriers, so the support department does not suit him, though he still regrets losing the scholarship money. Checking his bank account and seeing only 30,801, he laments that being a student means being broke. Sitting on the cathedral floor, he broods over his finances. He wonders aloud if there is not some easy way to make money quickly. He considers but rejects options like dungeon runs and monster hunting as too dangerous, as he imagines being blasted around in combat. Thinking about climbing towers, he decides he could handle low-level ones but is restricted because, as a minor, he officially cannot get a license. In chibi form, he remembers being turned away by a stern guard for lacking that license. He racks his brain for another idea. Suddenly, an inspiration hits him, and he exclaims in realization. Time passes to night, with the starry sky indicating his planning continues. Meanwhile, in the staff room, the observing teacher tells colleagues he saw an exemplary student earlier that day. Another teacher guesses it might be second-year Kim Sunwoo. The support teacher adds that she has seen Sunwoo arriving early to school to clean. The theory teacher praises Sunwoo for focusing well in class and answering questions actively. The manifestation homeroom teacher proudly says such diligence is typical of students from her department. She jokes that someone tried to poach Sunwoo, but she trusted he would not be swayed easily, leaving the embarrassed support teacher fuming in chibi form. The teachers agree it is refreshing to have such a diligent, likable student these days and wonder who he is. Sunwoo, listening to this praise through narration, thinks that if he stops being a student, the restrictions on him would disappear. Ecstatic with his own logic, he calls himself a total genius. A new achievement labeled Student Loved by Teachers triggers, granting him 2,000 more points, which he happily welcomes as extra income. He opens the point store interface and activates the search function. He spends 10,000 points on a particular item, resolving that the purchase better be worth it. Sitting cross-legged with an ominous aura, he prays for a great result from this gacha-like purchase so he can make money. The scene shifts to Saturday morning over the academy's towering structure. A man in dark casual gear approaches the tower entrance where a security officer stands guard. The guard asks him to present his mage license. The man reaches to his belt pouch to retrieve something. He hands over an ID card and calmly says, "Here you go." The card displays a mage license under the name Kim Jinwoo, age 25, rank C. The guard scrutinizes the card and hesitates. He scans the license with the device to verify its authenticity. The disguised Sunwoo watches nervously, eyes swirling with anxiety. The device confirms the card's data as a legitimate C-class wizard named Kim Ji-woo, age 25. The guard smiles and formally welcomes Mr. Kim Ji-woo, returning the license. Sunwoo, relieved, thanks him while thinking how scared he was despite knowing he should not be caught. In narration, he explains this adult identity was something he recently bought from the point shop. A flashback shows the store description. The identity can be freely customized and includes a valid wizard license for 10,000 points with limited purchases. Narration clarifies that wizard licenses are special items embedded with unique magic formulas, making normal forgery impossible. Sunwoo, now in full disguise complete with magic eye glasses, feels confident that his false identity is flawless. His boots echo as he steps into the tower interior. Checking his watch, he plans to clear the tower quickly and then head straight to the Han River, where Seo-jun will battle a demon at 9:30. He walks through giant doors into a teleportation chamber bathed in light. A system voice welcomes Mr. Kim Ji-woo to the Tower of Proof. The voice informs him that he may access up to the 27th floor of the tower. As he steps onto the glowing magic circle, the system asks which floor he wants to go to. Sunwoo selects the 10th floor, ignoring the system's warning that rewards are reduced on already cleared floors. He says it does not matter and orders it to proceed, thinking his objective here is different from ordinary rewards. Narration explains that portals and towers act as transportation devices, and that towers vary in type across the world. It adds that both monster power and trap difficulty change from tower to tower, showing a charging demon as an example. The narration continues that even the trap mechanisms differ greatly, illustrated by deadly spear traps. Sunwoo arrives on the 10th floor of the Tower of Proof, a setting known in the original side story, and a message confirms his entry. The narration describes this tower as so uniquely difficult that even many guilds avoid it. Menacing red eyes open in the darkness, revealing the threat inside. A gigantic, red aura wolf confronts Sunwoo in the chamber. The three-eyed wolf boss charges at him with a savage roar. Sunwoo responds with powerful blue magic, blasting the wolf as narration notes that while the monsters here are relatively weak, other factors make the tower harsh. After defeating the creature, he receives the First Hunt achievement and 1,000 points as a reward. He explains that the tower's difficulty comes from the many traps and high-level magic formulas scattered throughout, which actually suit his abilities, making this feel like a tower tailored to him. Checking his watch again, he judges he still has plenty of time to clear the tower. Encouraged, he walks deeper into the dungeon, saying they should keep going. The perspective shifts to the Han River area, where a large crowd gathers in anticipation. Seo-jun and a friend comment on how many people have come even though it is not yet festival time. The friend suggests they take a photo since they are already there, though Seo-jun questions the point of it. The friend insists that taking pictures is part of making memories and pulls Seo-jun close for a snapshot. As the phone lens glints in the evening light, he begins counting down to take the picture. Back in the tower, Sunwoo's magic attack slams into another monster's open jaws. One defeated monster drops a glowing red magic stone, and Sunwoo happily remarks on his good luck. Holding the stone in his hand, he notes that at least he has now earned some travel money. Later, he examines a wall in the tower, saying that what he is searching for should be somewhere around this area. The protagonist locates a crucial magical thread and notes he has found it. He presses his glowing hand against the barrier, surprised as it reacts. Light flares around him as the barrier recognition process continues. System messages announce he has unlocked the barrier undoing specialist achievement and earned 2,000 points upon opening the gateway. Entering the hidden floor of the Tower of Proof, he is recognized by the tower, gains the Explorer of Mystery achievement, and receives 5,000 points. Looking around the new world happily, he declares this place is exactly what he was seeking. A mystical voice addresses him as the challenger of the Tower of Proof, drawing his cautious attention. A statue-like woman asks whether he can truly prove his own worth. Her eye shines intensely, signaling that his trial is beginning. As a powerful force bears down on him, he braces himself with a pained grunt. Lights burst from a field of flowers as tiny presences stir and call out. A swarm of winged creatures surrounds him, chittering as they approach. Recognizing them, he realizes he is facing flower fairies. He recalls that these C-rank monsters are individually weak but still dangerous in groups. The seemingly cute fairies bear fangs, revealing their vicious nature. He remembers that whenever these fairies see a human they go insane and attack relentlessly. One fairy is suddenly blasted away by a high-speed strike. Smiling confidently, he states that speed is the key when hunting these monsters. He unleashes rapid magical attacks, aiming to hit at least one of the darting fairies. A fairy reels in shock as his assault catches them off guard. He drops to a glowing magic circle, preparing a larger spell. While focusing, he realizes that simply defeating every fairy will not be enough to clear this floor. He recalls the statue's question about proving himself, and concludes that brute force alone cannot demonstrate his individuality. He activates his unique trait, Outsider's Benefit, to begin deciphering the tower's magic formulas. The cryptic magical sentence appears as rearrangeable fragments for him to decode. The magic circle responds as his decoding begins altering the environment. The statue commands him to prove himself as blue flames, and the encoded formula surround him. He accepts the challenge and promises to show proof of who he is. He likens his unique individuality to the act of solving this intricate magical formula. Surging with all the abilities granted by being an outsider, he channels vast mana into the circle. The system acknowledges him with the recognized by the Tower of Proof achievement and rewards him with 10,000 points. The Tower of Proof blesses him and grants a new adaptive trait called Proof of the Tower, D. Treasure manifests before him, including a red dragon's soul, a magic enchantment book, and sacred herb seeds. Stat windows show his mana recovery speed, and magic power all increase, and he exclaims that he has finished the challenge. Fireworks explode as a voice congratulates him for his success. A global message announces that someone has cleared the hidden floor imaginary world, and festival onlookers notice the broadcast. Two friends watch the news on a phone, one telling the other to check something. They look at a photo they took earlier and wonder why it matters. He urges his friend to look closely at the background of the picture. Realizing something terrifying about the man in the photo, the friend thinks those eyes are impossible. The image or memory reveals that the mysterious man is actually a demon. Back at the festival grounds, the protagonist watches that same man staggering suspiciously outside. He glances at a nearby clock tower and senses that something is wrong. Watching the demon shamble, he notes anxiously that it is almost 9:30. He worries about why Lee Seo-jun, who should be involved in this event, has not arrived yet. The demon stiffens and begins to transform in a secluded part of the park. Its eye glows red and monstrous power awakens within it. Time passes toward 9:30 as the clock tower stands over the city. The protagonist frets that Seo-jun still has not appeared and wonders if he should intervene personally. He weighs that this moment is part of the main storyline and fears altering the plot if he acts rashly. As bystander Seo-jun approaches to help the staggering man, the demon's aura flares ominously. The demon glares with a blood-red eye, fully awakened. Inside the cafe, the protagonist realizes what is about to happen and cries out in denial. Blood splatters the ground outside, signaling the demon's first attack. Seo-jun lies grievously wounded and gasping, covered in blood. The demon grabs and lifts Seo-jun, continuing its brutal assault. Its crimson eyes burn as it tightens its grip, intent on killing him. In desperation, Seo-jun claws at the demon, further bloodying the scene. The demon slams him to the ground with lethal force. A blur of movement follows as the rampage continues. The demon's eye flares again, showing it is still far from defeated. The demon fully transforms into a hulking berserker, radiating murderous energy. A nearby girl notices the transformed monster towering over her. The berserk demon looms over the terrified girl, ready to strike. Onlookers recognize the creature as a rampaging demon and shout to call the police. The protagonist grips his trident weapon tightly, committing to act. He sprints toward the scene, deciding there is no time left to hesitate. Seeing the demon threatening the girl, he resolves that storyline or not, he must intervene. He affirms that protecting people comes before preserving the original plot. Elsewhere, authorities review the festival photo the boys sent, confirming the suspicious man. Agent Jong Hyun-soo of the Mage Association's Anti-Terror Division declares from the eyes in the photo that the man is definitely a demon. Jong questions the boys at the site where the photo was taken to pinpoint the demon's location. Hearing that demons grow stronger by absorbing blood, they realize how dangerous it is in the crowded festival. One of the boys suddenly senses an enormous surge of mana nearby. He tells his friend he just felt a huge burst of mana from that direction. Jong concludes without doubt that the demon has manifested and leads them toward it. In another part of the festival, people worry the area might also be in danger. The girl begs for help as the demon advances, while the protagonist rushes into view behind it. The demon swings a heavy weapon, preparing to kill. He hurls the girl aside with a brutal blow, sending her screaming. The protagonist notes that the table absorbed the blow and narrowly saved her life. When the girl flees, the demon begins chasing her, and the protagonist curses that it is targeting her again. Judging the demon at least B rank, he concludes that charging in recklessly would be suicide and instead gathers all his mana. He focuses that mana into a single powerful projectile aimed precisely at the demon's weak point. The blast collides explosively with the back of the demon's head. Smoke billows from the impact as the demon staggers, and the protagonist readies himself. He watches tensely, unsure whether his attack was enough. The demon turns, showing a half-destroyed, horrifying face, proving it survived. Its damaged jaw twitches as it snarls, still capable of fighting. The protagonist realizes in frustration that he failed to completely destroy the demon's brain. The enraged demon charges after him, while he runs, forcing a chase. It leaps toward him in a murderous attack from above. Cornered, he decides to use a powerful item he had wanted to save. He activates the Heart of Mother Nature, which greatly boosts his mana recovery for 1 minute. Surrounded by rapidly regenerating mana orbs, he admits he may not kill the demon within a minute but prepares to try. Empowered, he unleashes a flurry of blue magical projectiles. He pelts the demon from all directions, determined to at least leave it half dead. The demon strains to block the barrage but is battered by continuous impacts. One of its arms is blasted bloody, showing his spells are wearing it down. He continues his relentless assault, driving the weakened demon back. Another direct hit slams into the demon as it raises its guard. Smirking, he challenges the demon to keep blocking while he concentrates power in his hands again. He channels everything into a final beam focused solely on the demon's head. The demon roars in agony as the attack lands and overwhelms it. Seeing the tide turning, the protagonist thinks optimistically that at this rate he can win. Then he notices the glow at his chest fading, signaling the buff's end. Realizing the minute is already up, he panics that the fight could now turn against him. The battered demon starts moving again, making him wary. It declares it can no longer restrain its power, hinting at another escalation. Before that can happen, Agent Zhang appears and decapitates the demon with a swift sword strike. The protagonist stares in shock as the professional finishes the enemy. The demon's severed parts fall to the ground, ending the battle. Zhang calmly announces that the situation has been resolved. He introduces himself to the protagonist, thanks him for the assistance, and asks to see his wizard license to process the reward. The protagonist hands over his license without protest. Zhang is surprised to see he is only C rank, having assumed his combat display meant at least B rank. Lee Seo-jun and his friend approach the group, drawing the protagonist's eye. The protagonist recognizes them and reacts in startled confusion. He realizes the two newcomers are Lee Seo-jun and Shin Young-jun from the novel's main story. Remembering how vital they are, he mentally scolds them for arriving so late to this incident. From a distance, Seo-jun studies the protagonist and Zhang talking, intrigued. Seo-jun feels an odd familiarity with the protagonist, as if he has seen him somewhere before. Footsteps echo as Seo-jun decides to walk over. The protagonist, nervous, begins to address him with a leading question. Seo-jun bluntly asks if he knows someone named Kim Sun-woo. The protagonist, caught off guard, tries to respond. Seo-jun repeats the question more clearly, pressing whether he knows Kim Sun-woo. Seo-jun explains that Kim Sun-woo is a student at the Magic Academy, and remarks that the protagonist gives off a very similar vibe, asking if they are related. Internally panicking, the protagonist lies that he has never heard of such a person. Zhang dismisses Seo-jun's suspicion as coincidence, tells the boys to stop causing trouble, and sends them away. Later, Zhang again thanks the protagonist for his help, while Seo-jun watches him closely from behind. Seo-jun silently continues to study him, still feeling that strange sense of recognition. Downplaying his role, the protagonist modestly says he only did what was necessary. Zhang prepares to leave, mentioning that reporters and cleanup crews will arrive soon, and the protagonist thanks him sincerely for saving his life. The quiet night returns after the chaos subsides. A system window informs the protagonist that he officially participated in subjugating the B-rank villain Zhang Han, surprising him. Additional messages state that the story has deviated slightly, awarding him 5,300 points and increasing his new stat, causality, prompting his curiosity. He reads that causality is gained by resolving key main story events, scales with how much the story changes, and can be spent to use powerful authorities. Considering that Lee Seo-jun originally died in a timeline where he did nothing, he wonders if using causality means he could now save Seo-jun. He studies the authority list, learning that higher causality unlocks stronger powers and that at 100 causality a Deus Ex Machina ability could grant any wish, leading him to dream of such possibilities. He imagines using that ultimate power to even return to his own real world and reunite with his family. Resolving himself, he thinks that with such potential, there is no reason to hesitate any longer. He decides his goal is to protect Lee Seo-jun, gain more causality, and change the story's fate. Energized by this revelation, he concludes that he must actively interfere with the novel's storyline from now on. A notification shows 15 million won deposited as his fiend subjugation reward, impressing him with a quick payout. Holding his phone and trident, he muses that the money will let him rest comfortably after everything he went through today. He checks into the luxurious mage-exclusive 5-star Hotel Hanseong for a well-earned break. Walking through its opulent lobby, he reflects that the powerful Hanseong group behind this hotel is an influential force in the original story. He recalls that this organization, rich in strength, authority, and wealth, played a major role in the novel, as staff greet him at the entrance. Looking around the hotel, the protagonist calmly takes in his new surroundings, ready for whatever the altered story brings next. The narrator recognizes the stylish man in the suit as Han Sejin, vice chairman of Hanseong Group and leading candidate to inherit the company. Staff inform Vice Chairman Han Sejin that his sister plans to attend the upcoming dinner. Sejin is pleased to hear that his sister Han Seon will come, noting it has been a while since he last saw her, while the protagonist reacts to hearing her name. The protagonist remembers that Han Seon exists and seems to recall her significance. Time shifts to a quiet room, indicating a change of scene. The protagonist, now alone, looks over his newly acquired items from the tower, including a scroll and other loot. He decides the flashy spear must be sold, plans to use the enchantment tome later, and resolves to bring some powerful herbs to Han Seon. Realizing he cannot act immediately, he decides to wait until tomorrow to proceed. The next morning's news broadcast begins, announcing the day's headlines. The news reports that someone has drawn attention by clearing the hidden floor of the Tower of Proving. The anchor explains that this mage, formerly C rank, cleared the hidden floor and then defeated a rampaging fiend at Hangang Park. The Mage Association praises Mage Kim Jinwoo's heroism, considers promoting his rank, and displays his image on a city screen as onlookers watch. People on the street discuss how Kim Jinwoo must have fought the fiend alone, and a system message announces an achievement called Minor Hero. System messages thank him on behalf of 2 million citizens, say many characters are now curious about him, and award him 21,000 points for appearing on the news, which delights him. Thinking that his identity is now somewhat established, he prepares to take the next step. He decides to visit Han Seon at Hanseong Pharmaceuticals. Passers-by recognize him as the guy from TV, and he enjoys being noticed. He walks into the building, thinking that fame is actually quite pleasant. Inside the lobby he suddenly spots a formidable figure, and is startled. The figure is identified as Jang Sugi, an S-rank mage known as the Sword of the Hanseong family. Jinwoo nervously wonders why an S-rank appears just as he arrives, while the receptionist recognizes him from the news. Jinwoo introduces himself, says he brought medicinal herbs from the tower to sell, and requests that the general manager personally appraise them. In an office, someone remarks that it is interesting to have the current celebrity, Kim Jinwoo, come in person. Han Seon, introduced as the youngest daughter of Hanseong Group, greets him warmly and calls the herb he brought fascinating. Examining the plant, she senses strong energy but notes it lacks the usual mana stems of known medicinal herbs. She concludes that although the herb is tricky to handle, it is undeniably extraordinary, and asks how he discovered its effects. Jiwoo claims he has long studied medicine and internally notes that the so-called divine herb is a special ingredient. He understands that this herb amplifies the effects of other ingredients. However, Hanseong's researchers have found that by itself the herb does nothing and is difficult to process with current knowledge. Jinwoo thinks it is best to entrust such a thing to a genius pharmacist, while Seon admits she does not fully grasp it but is intrigued. She says the only truly important matter is acquiring the herb and asks what conditions Jinwoo wants for the deal. Jinwoo raises his hand, ready to state his demands. He asks for 500 million won in advance plus 0.005% of Hanseong Pharmaceuticals shares. Seon is surprised at the request for shares and comments that he must not realize the scale of their conglomerate. Jinwoo replies that he prefers shares over cash, believing that once the divine herb is commercialized the company will dominate the pharmaceutical industry. Seon firmly refuses to give shares and tells him to name something else. Anticipating this, Jinwoo instead requests a VIP membership to an underground auction and wants potion crafting and item procurement services. Seon agrees to pay for those services but waits silently, considering his proposal. She smiles subtly, planning how to respond. She interprets his conditions as wanting her to run errands for him and in exchange, he offers to reveal a weakness of her brother, Vice Chairman Han Sejin. Shocked at the mention of a weakness, Seon reacts with alarm. She asks if Jinwoo is aiming to seize control of the Hanseong Group. Jinwoo coolly suggests she cares so little about the family that she would let it collapse if necessary. Elsewhere, a news report finishes covering Kim Jinwoo's heroic deeds as another character remarks that Jang Han is dead. Two suited men talk about how they could have saved Jang Han if they had intervened while he was rampaging. Baek Gang becomes enraged, his eyes turning red with fury. He lashes out violently, insisting again that they could have saved Jang Han. The calmer man tells Baek Gang to relax, reminding him that they were following someone else's orders. He rationalizes that helping a berserk fiend among civilians would only have endangered them. Alone, Baek Gang curses their situation, furious at how long they must keep hiding. He swears to kill Kim Jinwoo for what happened. The suited man points out that Jinwoo now seems to be getting close to Baek Gang's client. Baek Gang laughs grimly, confident despite this development. Outside Hanseong's building, someone notes ominously that their client is dangerous. That person explains that this client would sever ties with his own family while smiling. Han Seon greets her older brother Han Sejin at the entrance to a formal event. She cheerfully tells him it has been a while since they met. Baek Gang agrees that his client is exactly that ruthless. The earlier remark about the client is repeated, underscoring how dangerous he is. Again it is said that he would easily cut off his family, while Seon calls to her brother. Sejin appears composed and slightly amused as he faces her. Seon repeats that it has been a long time since they met, maintaining a pleasant facade. Riding together in a limousine, one sibling remarks that it is nice to see the other after so long. Sejin casually asks Seon whether work at the company is manageable. She replies that the job is difficult and dealing with people leaves her mentally exhausted. Sejin says their father was too hasty in handing over shares of the company. Seon thinks his comment about shares being too heavy for someone young is absurd, internally mocking him and offering to take them herself. Clenching her phone, she inwardly mutters for a break from such talk. Later, Jinwoo saves Han Seon's contact information in his phone. Back home, he notes that using two different accounts will help keep things safe, and he feels that meeting Seon was a good move since she even sold the spear for him. Drinking a beer, he happily reflects that thanks to her help he returned without burdens or stress. He recalls how he had offered to reveal Sejin's weakness and thinks that Seon's intelligence network must be quite capable. Jinwoo wonders if Seon is currently verifying the information he gave her. As he drinks, his tablet beeps and he looks down, surprised. A message from Han Seon states that for exactly 1 month she will act as his errand assistant. Another system message says Han Seon now trusts him, grants him 1,000 points, and she texts that she will transfer the promised advance and spear money today, asking if he needs anything else, which Jinwoo welcomes. Jinwoo replies by requesting potion crafting and an entry ticket to the underground arena, and she answers that potions will take time and she will contact him when they are ready, which he accepts while thinking he can extend their deal later. Remembering that moving openly as Kim Jinwoo will attract vengeful fiends, he worries about the revenge plot from the original story. To counter potential attacks, he uses the system's search function to look up detection-related traits. He examines the description of killing intent detection, which senses murderous intent within a certain range for 50,000 points. Although he complains about the steep price, he resolves that he needs the straight. He decides his life is worth the cost and confirms the purchase. A few days later he receives the completed potions he had ordered. The disguised Cian explains that she infused them with the divine herb, warning that the side effects are amplified along with the benefits. Jinwoo appraises one potion, sees that it massively boosts mana recovery for a short time but causes mana exhaustion afterward, and judges the quality to be high. Watching him, Cian finds it suspicious that such a competent mage requested this dangerous type of potion. She also wonders how he knows so much about her and her brother. Meeting again, she says she investigated the alleged weakness of her brother and found the results truly shocking. She admits Sejin always seemed somewhat shady but is disturbed to learn the full extent of it. Visuals show Sejin standing over dead bodies as she voices disbelief that he actually killed people. She adds that he even has ties to someone suspected of being a fiend, and asks herself how Jinwoo ever uncovered this. Jinwoo, thinking privately, attributes his knowledge to the original novel he read before entering this world. He recalls that in that story Han Sejin allies with fiends out of greed and gradually becomes an important villain. Wondering how to explain this to Cian, he jokingly demands 5% of Hanseong Pharmaceuticals shares in exchange for the full story. Cian, unimpressed, tells him he should just admit he does not want to explain. Jinwoo changes the subject and asks about the arena ticket she arranged. She says she managed to secure a ticket but it is non-transferable, so he will have to enter with her. When he realizes this is why she rearranged her schedule, she snaps back that it is his fault. Curious, she asks what he plans to do in the arena, and he replies that since he has made some money he intends to grow it. She stares silently, processing the implication. Shocked, she shouts, asking if he is really going to gamble away all the funds she provided. Jinwoo casually confirms, and she calls him insane. Frustrated, Cian declares their partnership will end after this month and a system message says her interest in him has dropped sharply. Jinwoo notes how disappointed she seems but decides it does not matter to him. He prepares a decorative rabbit mask from his bag. Putting on the rabbit-eared mask, he plans to use the arena visit to gain even more of Cian's trust in the long run. At the underground venue, masked guards stand watch outside. Jinwoo and Cian are escorted inside the stone corridors of the arena. A staff member attaches a purple VIP wristband to Jinwoo's arm. The staff remark that it has been a while since a new VIP member joined as Jinwoo looks around. Jinwoo is startled when he notices a particular masked man approaching. A tall man in a red devil mask walks toward him down the corridor. Jinwoo recognizes him as Ha Raung, an S-rank fiend and one of the story's top villains. Jinwoo thinks it is natural for Ha Raung to be present since this arena is actually run by him. Ha Raung politely welcomes the guests and hopes they enjoy their time. After Ha Raung passes by, Jinwoo watches him leave. Jinwoo resolves to be extremely careful and avoid becoming entangled with this dangerous villain. The scene shifts to the packed underground arena, buzzing with noise. Spectators wearing masks fill the stands, watching the fights below. Jinwoo and Cian comment on the large crowd and excited atmosphere, attributing it to a fighter named Yang Hongju. Cian asks who Yang Hongju is. Jinwoo explains that Yang Hongju is currently the arena's most popular fighter, a mage who has held the champion title for 3 years and fights at near a rank combat ability. Cian worries that with everyone betting on him, profit margins will be low. Jinwoo answers that to make real money they must follow his strategy, prompting her puzzled reaction. Jinwoo approaches a staff member to place a bet, and the staff tells him to proceed. He announces that he will wager 530 million won. Jinwoo then specifies that the entire 530 million should be bet on Yang Hongju's opponent. The staffer is stunned by the risky wager. Cian anxiously questions whether he is serious and who exactly Yang Hongju's opponent is. She exclaims that the opponent is only a rookie fighter debuting today. Elsewhere, Ha Raung's red mask lies on a desk as if he has removed it. In a control room, a subordinate informs Ha Raung that a guest has bet 530 million on Yang Hongju's opponent. Ha Raung asks who the gambler is and hears that the person is wearing a rabbit mask. He realizes it must be the new VIP he saw earlier. Amused, Ha Raung assumes such a huge sum is pocket money for that VIP and wonders if he is just an eccentric rich man with odd tastes. Then he receives news that shocks him. On hearing that the bettor is Kim Jinwoo, Baek Gang clenches his fist and reacts violently. He yells, confirming Jinwoo appeared at the underground arena with Han Cian. Baek Gang is pleased because this appearance finally gives them a lead on Jinwoo. He orders a car prepared immediately, vowing to avenge Jang Han that very night. The conversation about Jinwoo attending the underground arena with Cian is reiterated, emphasizing the danger. In the arena, a match shows a fighter brutally stabbing another with a weapon, drawing blood and screams. The wounded fighter begs for mercy and surrenders. His opponent criticizes him for not yielding sooner as the attack concludes. The announcer proclaims the winner of the first match to the roaring crowd. The victorious swordsman raises his hand in acknowledgement. Spectators are stunned that this notoriously reckless fighter surrendered, complaining because they had bet on him. Enraged bettors shout insults, wishing death on the loser. Watching, Cian notes how savage the atmosphere is and remarks that this is what underground matches are like. Jinwoo, however, reassures himself that the organizers will prevent any actual deaths from occurring in the arena. The underground arena announcer hypes up the next event as the masked crowd, including the rabbit-masked protagonist, watches. The host introduces a high-stakes match between rookie Liang Liang and champion Yang Hongju, noting that most of the huge betting pool favors Yang. The rabbit-masked protagonist observes that everyone safely wagered on Yang Hongju. Nearby spectators mock the unknown gambler who put 530 million on underdog Liang, calling the bet insane. The protagonist dismisses their chatter, confident he will win nearly 6 times his massive wager if events follow the story he knows. Yang Hongju, a powerful fighter, steps forward as the match is about to begin. Liang enters the arena to face Yang Hongju while the announcer declares the fighter's entrance. The protagonist and his companion are shocked by Liang's small size and the glaring weight class mismatch. The protagonist thinks Liang looks scrawnier than expected, admits money is not his only motive for coming. He recalls a key villain organization from the original story called John. He remembers that Liang is destined to join John later in the main plot. Wanting to witness Liang fight at least once, the protagonist listens as the crowd wonders who bet so much on that kid. Nervous, he reassures himself with the knowledge from the original novel. He recalls the line that Liang has never lost a match in this underground arena. Yang Hongju arrogantly charges in, deeming Liang too weak and beneath him. Yang Hongju rushes in to finish the fight quickly with a powerful, lightning-charged attack. Their first clash sends Yang Hongju past Liang in a blur of blue energy. Liang, seemingly outmatched, reacts with shock but prepares to counter. Liang retaliates with a fierce, electric strike that makes Yang scream. The impact creates a huge shockwave, blasting Yang Hongju backward across the arena. Liang slams into the arena wall but pulls himself up again, still in the fight. The crowd erupts as the protagonist realizes Liang really might win. Elsewhere, a white car speeds through the night, heading toward the arena's vicinity. Inside, a red-eyed man muses about the underground arena, clearly interested. A masked organizer wants to intervene but hesitates, fearing punishment for ruining Ha Ryon's event. In another car, someone asks what time the event ends and learns it is scheduled to finish at 10:30. The red-eyed man, planning murder, decides that the event's end time is perfect to kill his target. Back in the arena, Liang unleashes a rapid barrage of glowing strikes. Yang Hongju counters with a powerful punch. Yang's blow lands hard on Liang's torso, drawing another agonized scream. Yang batters Liang around the ring, telling him to know his place and disappear. Yang follows up with a brutal kick that sends Liang flying. Liang crashes violently into the ground amid debris. Despite his injuries, Liang stands again, his body steaming with latent power. Yang Hongju basks in the crowd chanting his name, convinced of his dominance. Watching, the protagonist panics at the possibility that Yang might actually be winning. He realizes Yang Hongju presently has the upper hand in the fight. A hidden, bloodied stabbing attack suddenly pierces Yang Hongju's chest. Yang looks back in shock to see Liang at range, having landed a sneak attack. Wounded and bleeding from the mouth, Yang Hongju struggles to comprehend what is happening. Liang, battered but grinning grimly, prepares to continue the assault. Enraged, Yang Hongju charges Liang while clutching a hidden knife. Liang gathers dark, crackling power around his chest and hands as he readies a finishing move. Surrounded by swirling purple energy, Liang unleashes a large-scale technique. The dark attack tears into Yang Hongju's body, making him scream in agony. Yang Hongju is engulfed by the deadly energy, his life rapidly draining away. His body collapses as his boots lose strength, and the fight ends. Liang stands over Yang's corpse, whose chest is mangled by multiple blade-like protrusions. From above, the arena shows a clear victor, Liang, while Yang Hongju lies dead. The stunned masked spectators fall silent, struggling to process the upset. They then exclaim in disbelief at the shocking outcome. Han Se-yun, the protagonist's ally, realizes what the result implies and is left speechless. Other gamblers curse Yang as a coward for resorting to a knife and losing them money. Relieved and satisfied with the result, the protagonist says his business is done and suggests they leave. As the crowd disperses in chaos, Han Se-yun calls after him, wanting to depart together. The red-masked organizer watches from above, remarking that the outcome is too convenient to be mere coincidence. He concludes that Liang's victory only happened because Yang Hongju got careless. Still, he senses a deliberate intention behind the massive bet on Liang. He calls out to his subordinate, Chief Zhang. The red-masked man orders Zhang to identify the gambler who profited from today's betting. In the getaway car, Han Se-yun pointedly asks the protagonist what he really is and how he knew Liang would win. He brushes it off as a simple hunch, while she complains that he never explains anything. Checking his phone, the protagonist thinks to himself that today was an incredible jackpot. He sees his bank balance surpass 3 billion won and notes that the bet also yielded system achievements. System notifications inform him that he unlocked the Gambler of the Century title and that Han Se-yun's trust and curiosity toward him have increased. He happily notes he gained points and an interest level feature, when a system alert suddenly warns that murderous intent is being directed at him. His expression hardens as he feels this ominous killing intent. Sensing the malicious aura while driving through the city at night, he wonders about the sudden killing intent. He confirms internally that this aura of murderous intent has appeared out of nowhere. Remembering the original story, he deduces that this must be the vengeful demonic figure who wanted to avenge Jang Han. Han Se-yun notices his tense expression and asks why he looks like that. He asks Han Se-yun for a favor, addressing her by name. Their car abruptly swerves to the side of the road. In another vehicle, the red-eyed pursuer's driver reports that their targets have changed course and asks for instructions. The red-eyed man orders the car stopped, ready to act. He decides to kill his quarry on this quiet riverside stretch. Watching from the trees, he notes that Han Se-yeon is nowhere in sight, leaving the protagonist alone. He doubts that this apparently untrained man could really have killed Jang Han. He also senses only weak energy from the protagonist as the latter casually eats a snack. The protagonist drops his snack to the ground, growing serious. After drinking a mana-boosting elixir, he calls out his foe as blue energy flares around him and a system window explains the potion's effects and drawbacks. Supercharged with mana, he tells the hidden enemy he has noticed the hostile surveillance for some time. The pursuer feels the protagonist's energy spike but judges that it still does not seem truly threatening. The man steps out, calling the display impressive as he faces the glowing protagonist from a distance. With flaming chain spears spinning around him, he admits he is surprised the protagonist detected his tailing. He then launches a deadly fiery barrage, screaming for the protagonist to die. The protagonist hastily forms a concentrated sphere of blue mana in his hands. He fires a powerful beam of energy forward to meet the incoming flames. The blue blast collides with the fiery spears in a violent explosion of power. Smirking, the attacker notes he still has 2 more bullets left in his arsenal. More flaming spears rain down toward the protagonist as he looks up in alarm. A massive explosion erupts behind Han Se-yeon's car as she speeds away, signaling that the battle has begun. Sensing the blast and mana surge from afar, Han Se-yeon realizes the confrontation she feared has started. Earlier in the car, she had again asked why his expression looked strange as he detected they were being followed. He had told her they were being tailed, which shocked her. While casually pulling out more elixirs, he hinted the pursuer might be a rival of Han Se-yeon group and said it was something like that. He requested that she drive somewhere isolated because he needed to catch this enemy himself. When she asked if the foe was someone they could even fight, he admitted it would not be easy. She warned that the enemy's magic far exceeds B rank and questioned if he was truly sure of his plan. Confident, he replied that of course he was and then laid out what he needed her to do. She pulled their car over sharply in response. Though anxious, Han Se-yeon decided to trust in his abilities. As she drove away, she prayed for Kim Jin-woo's safety while he lunged into battle wreathed in blue energy against the flames. Empowered, he tells himself this level of danger is manageable. He reminds himself that he trained as a physical enhancer in his first year, combining that past strength with his current magic. The enemy taunts that all the protagonist can do is dodge his attacks. Preparing another wave of fiery spears, the attacker declares that if dodging is all he can do, he will raise the stakes. He unleashes an even denser storm of flaming projectiles and demands to see how the protagonist will respond. Watching the barrage accelerate, the protagonist notes that his opponent has become faster. He barely evades the onslaught, weaving through fire and explosions. Irritated that his target keeps avoiding death, the red-eyed man clicks his tongue. The protagonist notes his potion has less than 2 minutes left and decides it is time to end things. He activates a powerful artifact skill called Heart of the Great Nature to massively boost his mana recovery for 1 minute, resolving to settle the fight. The attacker is stunned as he suddenly feels an even more overwhelming energy swell from the protagonist. Cloaked in this stronger aura, the protagonist readies himself for a decisive charge. His legs surge with swirling blue mana as he sprints forward at blinding speed. The enemy reacts with shock as the protagonist rockets straight toward him. Believing the situation dangerous, the attacker prepares another lethal salvo of flaming spears. The protagonist resolves to block the attack at all costs, racing straight into the blaze. He crashes through the fiery spears behind a shield of blue energy, forcing the enemy into close combat. The red-eyed man grimly grabs his flaming weapon, trying to regain control of the fight. He swings a massive horizontal slash of fire at the approaching protagonist. The protagonist counters by charging his hand with concentrated mana. His explosive strike slams into the attacker, sending the man reeling. Wounded and bound by blue energy bands, the attacker staggers while his weapon falls aside. The protagonist refuses to give him any opening and continues building another dense mana sphere. He presses the attack relentlessly, detonating multiple blasts against his opponent and drawing screams. The enemy, battered and encircled by glowing strikes, curses in desperation. The protagonist struggles to precisely target the man's brain with his magic under these chaotic conditions. He suddenly realizes another approach and adjusts his strategy. Closing in, he lands a heavy physical blow that staggers the foe. Seizing the moment, he drives a concentrated stream of mana into the attacker's neck and upper body. The man, choking in the protagonist's grip, tries to threaten future revenge. The protagonist coldly declares that the battle is finished. The attacker's body hangs helplessly in the air, pinned by the protagonist's mana-charged chokehold. The protagonist feels his strength waning as the mana boost's backlash begins to hit. A system reminder flashes that the elixir's massive bonus lasts 10 minutes, and will soon plunge him into mana exhaustion for 30. Realizing the worst timing, he panics as his power starts dropping. The attacker's charred chest shows signs of strange regenerative power activating. He grasps his flaming weapon once more, refusing to die. His eyes narrow as a malevolent force awakens within him. Possessed by a darker will, he raises the weapon overhead while inner voices urge him to kill the protagonist. Before he can strike, blinding swordlight descends from above and bisects him. An older swordsman appears, his massive blade buried in the enemy's body, finishing the kill. The protagonist exhales in relief, realizing he has been saved at the last moment. He recognizes that his long-awaited ally has finally arrived on the scene. The newcomer is revealed as Jang Sujai, an S-rank mage and famed sword master of the Hanseong family. With a single blood streak swing, Jang Sujai has decapitated the enemy and ended the battle. The protagonist mentally identifies Jang Sujai, nicknamed Sword Demon, as one of the strongest characters in the original story. He recalls that this man just felled Baekgang, whose combat strength rivaled an A rank, in a single blow. Sujai furiously condemns the demonic being for daring to harm the Hanseong family's youngest daughter. He calls out to Kim Jinwoo as he and Han Se-yeon arrive where Baekgang was fighting. Jinwoo checks if Se-yeon is injured, and she says she stalled Baekgang just long enough to call for help. Se-yeon jokes that of course she called for help since her own life was at stake too. She explains she brought the strongest person she knew, indicating Sujai, who shoulders his sword. System messages announce that B-rank villain Baekgang has died. The story has slightly changed, causality rose, Se-yeon's trust is restored, and Jinwoo gains 1,000 points. Jinwoo, seeing the system rewards, internally notes how satisfying the outcome feels. Sujai addresses Se-yeon as young miss and asks if he should report this demonic attack to her family's chairman. Se-yeon reflects that an attack by a demonic being is too serious to treat as a normal incident. Jinwoo advises against reporting it. He reasons that news of a Hanseong group member being attacked by a demon would cause massive chaos, and that deviations from the original story need not be publicized. Se-yeon silently agrees that his logic is correct. She decides they should keep the whole Baekgang incident secret to avoid complications. She makes Sujai promise silence as well, and he respectfully agrees. 3 days later, Jinwoo lounges in bed checking his phone. Narration recalls that, in gratitude for saving her during the Baekgang incident, Se-yeon promised Jinwoo any information he wanted, and he requested a specific piece of intel. The requested intel was the release date of Hanseong Farm's new Shinseonko potion, whose success is expected to skyrocket the company's stock. Jinwoo narrates that he invested his entire fortune into Hanseong Farm stock in preparation for this moment. Watching the clock tick toward market open, he notes it is 8:59 and waits one more minute. As the market opens at 9 o'clock, he eagerly anticipates the stock's surge. The stock price rockets upward, symbolized by a huge red arrow and flying money. Overjoyed, Jinwoo shouts in celebration at his huge profit. He recalls that before regressing, even grinding dungeons his whole life barely afforded a single house. Comparing then and now, he marvels bitterly that earning money could be this easy. His phone chimes, drawing his attention. A text from Han Se-yeon invites him to lunch the next day, saying she has a gift for him. Jinwoo is surprised and wonders what kind of gift she intends to give. The scene shifts to Café Valeur, where they plan to meet. Se-yeon, already seated with coffee, notes that Jinwoo has arrived early. He replies that being early is just a habit as he sits down. She mentions that Hanseong Farm stock rose sharply and she earned a nice profit, asking if he made around 50 million. She reveals she actually made 3 billion in a single day and tells him to see it as a small token of appreciation. Jinwoo credits her as division head for his success and asks what the promised gift is. Se-yeon says the real gift is information. She has discovered the identity of the demonic being who attacked them. She explains that the demon was Baekgang, a notorious hitman when disguised as a human. Continuing the report, she says her investigation found a client who frequently traded with Baekgang. She reveals with pain that this client was her own older brother, Han Se-jin. Jinwoo internally notes he already knew Han Se-jin dealt with demons but had not realized Baekgang was one of them. Aloud, he comments that while the information is interesting, it does not sound like much of a personal gift, and she teases him for remaining so calculating even after they saved each other. Se-yeon sets a small box on the table, saying this physical presence symbolizes her wish to work well with him from now on. She adds she will soon be busy, which is why she arranged to meet today, prompting Jinwoo to ask if something is happening. Se-yeon explains that since discovering Han Se-jin's link to Baekgang, she believes the mastermind behind the attack is now exposed. She states she cannot tolerate being in debt, whether it is a favor owed or a grudge to settle. She turns to leave the cafe, heels clicking away. Jinwoo reflects that her assumption about Han Se-jin ordering Baekgang is actually a misunderstanding on her part. He notes, however, that regardless of that detail, Han Se-jin is undeniably a villain who will eventually become an obstacle for Se-yeon. He concludes that it is acceptable to use Se-yeon's drive later to help capture Han Se-jin. As she pauses to call his name, Jinwoo responds quickly, a bit flustered. She smiles and expresses hope that the gift truly suits him. She emphasizes that she personally chose the gift, making it more meaningful. Jinwoo thanks her sincerely, clearly pleased. Opening the box, he finds a mana alloy bracelet with high durability and strong defensive properties. Delighted by the quality of the item, he beams happily. While he admires the bracelet alone, a purple system window suddenly appears before him. Startled, Jinwoo looks at the notification. The system informs him that the character Ha Raung has grown curious about him, granting him 1,500 points. The story shifts to an older man, Ha Raung, reading documents in an office. The camera pulls back, showing him alone at a large desk in a spacious, dimly lit room. A man named Chun-hae bows before Ha Raung, saying it is an honor to meet him. Ha Raung notes it has been nearly 10 years since they last met, and asks if Chun-hae has come regarding the Sima Association. Chun-hae confirms but says there is another matter he wants to ask about first. He brings up the recent deaths of his close friend Jang Han and the demon Baekgang, assuming Ha Raung knows of it. Chun-hei explains that evidence points to a particular human mage involved in both killings. He presents a photo of Jin-woo, identifying him as the human connected to both incidents. Chun-hei adds that Baekgang's own investigation before dying showed this mage recently visited the arena under Ha Ryong's influence. He directly asks Ha Ryong whether he has heard the name Kim Jin-woo. Ha Ryong looks at a photograph of Jin-woo in a bunny mask and internally affirms he certainly knows who Kim Jin-woo is. He recognizes Jin-woo as the masked VIP who once bet on the fighter Rang Rang. The lights in Ha Ryong's office flare ominously. Chun-hei vows that if Ha Ryong gives him Jin-woo's information, he will shed the boy's blood on his friends' graves. Ha Ryong releases overwhelming demonic pressure, warning Chun-hei. He coldly tells Chun-hei that harming his client would bring dire consequences. Terrified, Chun-hei begs forgiveness and promises not to touch Jin-woo. Ha Ryong instead orders him to relay the 10 Demon Council's message. Gasping, Chun-hei reports that a prophecy has been received from the sacred relic known as the Prophet's Altar. The prophecy declares that a child destined to slay demons will awaken power at 18 and eventually kill the Demon King. Ha Ryong muses that the Demon King is causing trouble again and asks if there is more information about this so-called child of prophecy. Chun-hei says the Prophet's Altar also revealed the child's current location. He announces that the child of prophecy is at the Mage Academy. Back at the academy, Jin-woo quietly stands in his dorm room, looking at the bracelet and a magic scroll on his desk. He decides he should avoid drawing any more attention to Kim Jin-woo from Ha Ryong for now. A system window again notes Ha Ryong's curiosity and awards Jin-woo another 1500 points. But Jin-woo thinks it is not yet time to interact with Ha Ryong. Instead he focuses on the scroll, saying he must prioritize something more important. He activates the scroll, causing it to unravel in midair with glowing runes. The enchantment grants him a B-rank spell shield that can block one spell every 12 hours. Holding the applied enchantment, Jin-woo notes that the academy midterm exams are approaching. Narration explains that the midterm is a public event where students demonstrate their abilities before visiting officials. It is especially important because it affects the protagonist Lee Seojin's future path, and this particular midterm holds added significance. The story clarifies that the mysterious child of prophecy will later become Lee Seojin's demon-slaying companion. Jin-woo recalls that in the original story, demons invade the academy at 4 p.m. during the exam. Their goal is to kill the yet unawakened child of prophecy. In the original version, Lee Seojin single-handedly wipes out the invading demons. Jin-woo reflects that while the incident is not huge in scale, it yields crucial hints, so he must watch both Seojin and the child of prophecy this time. Later, an instructor gathers students, announces next week's midterm schedule, and says there is one more announcement. The students groan about more news and jokingly ask the teacher to share stories of his first love instead. Amused, the instructor declares that for him, combat and training are the same thing. He announces that second years will have several days of free sparring classes to prepare for the midterm. Lee Si-jun is surprised and repeats the words free sparring. The instructor adds that anyone without a partner can simply watch or train alone. Yu-era, the fiery mage girl, vows to defeat Lee Si-jun this time. Jin-woo watches, thinking that Seo-jun and Yu-era will naturally partner up just as in the original story and is relieved he did not volunteer first. Still, he feels uneasy as events begin to diverge. He is left standing alone without anyone asking him to partner up. Jin-woo muses that it is understandable, recalling how weak he appears when dispelling curses or barriers. He notes bitterly that no one wants to team with the very last-ranked student in the academy. Yet he shrugs it off, deciding it does not matter. He already has someone else in mind as his partner. Meanwhile, Lee Seo-jun trains intensely in free sparring, nearly getting blown away by Yu-era's fiery blasts. He barely avoids a powerful strike that gouges the arena floor. Catching his breath, Seo-jun mutters that he almost died and is asked if that is really all he has. Yu-era, wreathed in flames, confidently declares that with her skills she will soon seize the academy's top rank. Jin-woo, watching, tells her not to get ahead of herself yet. He appears battle-worn but smirking, brandishing a glowing tool. He boasts that he has not even finished warming up, unleashing another blazing attack in sparring. Elsewhere, Yoon-haeyoung, an ice mage girl, practices alone in the training hall. Hearing the distant explosions from outside, she turns toward the window. She sees Si-jun and Yu-era fighting, recognizing them as the school's top 2 students. Haeyoung looks at the faint ice forming in her hand. She tells herself not to compare with geniuses because it only makes her feel more insignificant. Outside, some students suggest Haeyoung as a sparring partner, but another dismisses her despite her mid-tier rank. They say Haeyoung is smart in theory but weak in actual combat, which she overhears. Other students pityingly comment that her talent cannot keep up with her mind, though at least she is a nice person. Haeyoung silently absorbs the hurtful remarks. In frustration, she channels ice magic and fires a barrage at a wooden dummy. Her ice shards pelt the dummy but mostly chip it weakly. Panting, she feels discouraged by her lack of power. She cries out in despair, wondering why nothing works no matter how hard she tries. Jin-woo, having watched, bluntly tells her that the way she manifests her ice is fundamentally weak. Haeyoung turns in shock, recognizing him as Kim Sunwoo's alter ego, Jin-woo's academy persona. He approaches, adding that her ice is not cold enough and her aim is terrible. He concludes that her poor control shows she lacks basic fundamentals overall. Jin-woo thinks this is his responsibility, since his interference earlier derailed her growth. He recalls that in the original timeline, Seojin's guidance would have propelled Haeyoung to about 6th place in their year. Because he changed events, she missed that opportunity and has remained stagnant. He therefore tells her that although she is currently lacking, if she joins him he will train her until she can pull her own weight. Offended, Haeyoung accuses him of being the type who belittles others to gain control because his own skills are insufficient. She continues that he tries to lower people's confidence so they will obey his directions. Jin-woo nonchalantly dodges the accusation with a shrug and a playful "who knows." Haeyoung insists that he is only provoking her because he cannot actually refute her criticisms. Overwhelmed, she starts to walk away from him. She tells him that during the dungeon expedition she thought he was decent, but now realizes she was mistaken. Jin-woo wonders if he pushed her too far and begins to apologize when she cuts him off. Haeyoung, now radiating cold, challenges him to a duel to see the true ability of the academy's last-ranked student. Jin-woo, inwardly pleased to have sparked a reaction, enthusiastically agrees to fight anytime. The training hall fills with swirling blue mana as the two face each other, preparing to battle. Haeyoung, surrounded by ice, repeats that she wants to measure the real skill of the so-called last place. Jin-woo grins that he finally got a reaction and tells her to bring it on. Ice shards immediately fly toward him, catching him off guard. The projectiles slam into the floor near where he stood, showing her improved focus. With her hands glowing with ice, Haeyoung declares the match begun. The boy channels energy into his legs, preparing to move with magic. He dashes forward, ice spikes erupting along his path as he advances. Watching, he realizes his opponent's power increased once she got serious. He charges through the ice and taunts her about her skills. She criticizes his simple attack pattern and hints at showing more versatile ice magic. She summons a massive vertical ice spear of power and asks if this new pattern suits him. He reacts with intrigued surprise at her display. She launches the huge ice attack toward him as he braces himself. He counters from above, shattering the enormous ice construct with his own power. She stares at her hands, stunned that she just used a technique she had never mastered before. She looks at the frozen arena and him above, realizing the scale of what happened. He lands on the ice, steady and in control. He reflects that people need the right stimulus to unlock their abilities. He thinks provoking her was the correct way to draw out her true potential. She glares with renewed determination, no longer shaken. She attacks again, accusing him of only running away and implying he does not want to partner with her. He comments that inexperienced manifestation wizards share a common weakness as he closes in. He dives straight at her through the light, intent on exploiting that weakness. At close range, he forms a spell and notes that once you get near, such casters are easy to defeat. Their magical energies clash in a bright impact. The collision blasts both of them backward in a violent shockwave. She realizes in alarm that he is about to overpower her spell. The two face each other at close distance, their spells locked but restrained. He ends the duel amicably, saying it was a good match. She, still flustered, hears him call her name directly. Sitting on the floor, she admits defeat to him. She concedes she should probably learn magic from him. He tells her she simply lacked a way to channel her natural talent. He offers to help and invites her to train together. She wonders if he really intends to help her fully unleash her talent. She shakes his hand and agrees to his proposal. She smiles, saying she will trust him this once. She asks him to teach her well, while his system notifies him that her interest and favorability toward him have risen. Time passes inside the ornate academy, moving to a training day. He explains that she will now do a tribute adaptation training. He says all magic starts from adapting to one's element, and hands her an ice attribute cube. She learns that adaptation means truly understanding the attribute, which determines how well one can manifest magic. He stresses that without these basics, no amount of practice will improve her skills. She says she already knows what attribute adaptation training is, but she protests when she finds herself submerged in a huge pool of ice, claiming she has never heard of a method like this. He replies that feeling the attribute with her whole body is the fastest way to learn and urges her to hurry and adapt before the ice melts. Night falls over another building, hinting at events elsewhere. In a dark place, ominous energy envelopes people as a demonic ritual begins. A man wreathed in purple aura, called Lord Jeonhae, asks if everyone is assembled and is assured they are. His subordinates report that they have gathered demons near the Magic Academy. Jeonhae announces that they will search for the Prophet's child and infiltrate the school next week. A shrouded collaborator from inside the school has informed them that security will weaken during midterm exams. One demon remarks that the time has finally come and asks why they are not getting help from Lord Haraon. Jeonhae says that plan fell through because Haraon claimed to have something more important than their race's future. A female demon objects that killing the Prophet's child with only 4 B-rank demons is impossible. Another demon scoffs, asking if they really need help to kill one student, but is warned that lax security alone is not enough. They are reminded that scouters from many guilds will be at the school that day, so one demon cannot handle all interference alone. The overconfident demon falls silent, reconsidering the situation. Jeonhae says it will be different if they trap anyone who might interfere. He gathers sinister purple energy into a glowing orb in his hand. That orb expands into a vast barrier around them, surprising his subordinates. They recognize it as the Great Demon Barrier. Jeonhae tells them they may rampage freely because he will be with them, but they must kill the Child of Prophecy. Back at training, ice cubes float as the boy narrates that you first grasp the attribute, then its form. He instructs Haeyoung to imprint the sensation of ice through her whole body so she can visualize and manifest it even without physical ice present. She succeeds in forming a delicate snowflake of mana in her hand. Building on that, she manifests a towering ice spear entirely with her own power. Overwhelmed, she trembles on the verge of tears. She cheers that she finally did it. She proudly declares she made an ice spear using only her own strength. He praises how much she improved in just a few days and reiterates that she has real talent. The system informs him that Haeyoung now fully trusts him and awards him 1,500 points. While she vows to believe everything he says, he thinks to himself that she is pushing herself surprisingly far and asks if the cold is bearable. She blushes but demands that he just add more ice. He notes inwardly that she is acting tough even though the training must be painful. He urges her mentally to endure a little longer, telling himself this hardship is to help her grow. He adds that his goal is to raise her into a capable comrade for Lee Seo-jun. Taking her at her word, he dumps another huge load of ice into the pool where she is soaking. Shivering, she groans from the intense cold. Another girl watches the scene from the balcony above. That observer wonders in horror if what she is seeing is some kind of bullying. In her imagination she pictures Haeyoung abused with a bucket while Seonwoo smiles, and resolves to report this to the teachers. Teacher Lee Hwee-young appears beside her, calmly saying that watching talented students grow is always beautiful. The worried girl tries to tell the teacher that the second years below are doing something, but Lee Hwee-young says she knows it is a tribute adaptation training. The girl repeats the word training in confusion, while the teacher says she has been watching them since day one. Lee Hwee-young explains that Haeyoung's rapid progress in mana manifestation is impressive. She says what truly amazes her is the judgment of the student who instantly saw his friend's problem and guided her. Seo-yoon realizes the teacher means senior Kim Seonwoo, and the teacher is surprised she knows him. The teacher jokes that she thought Seo-yoon only memorized top students' names, flustering Seo-yoon as she denies it. Lee Hwee-young clarifies that Seonwoo has such high potential that it is good to remember his name early, even though he is currently ranked last in the school. Seonwoo reflects that someone who only helps others might never improve his own standing because people care only about results. The teacher silently studies Seon's reaction. Seo-yoon suggests they give Seonwoo a chance to prove his skills. Lee Hwee-young smiles, saying she will look forward to the upcoming midterm exam. Seonwoo later stares at a system window for a space-time pocket item and laments that he is in trouble. The shop offers a discounted 30 kg subspace pocket for 5 days, and he realizes it is a rare, valuable item. He thinks about how useful such storage is in battle and daily life, able to summon items anywhere. Seeing the price is 20,000 points while he has only 8,500, he despairs at the bad timing of the discount. He howls in frustration that the sale appears when he lacks points. Calculating that he needs 11,500 more points in 5 days, he decides he must find a reliable way to earn them quickly. As he ponders, a notification rings and draws his attention. He checks his phone and reads a message from teacher Lee Hwee-young, summoning him to the faculty office before class. Morning light fills the office where he next meets the teachers. Standing with Yu-ara and Park In-hwan, Seonwoo hears that the three of them have been called. Lee Hwee-young tells them they have been chosen for the second-year manifestation system special class meant for highly potential students regardless of grades. Seonwoo thinks joining would let him interact more with Lee Seo-jun, who is in the enhancement system special class. Park In-hwan suddenly objects to Seonwoo being allowed into the special class. In-hwan argues it is unfair that someone ranked 5th must be grouped with the student ranked last in the whole school. He urges Yu-ara to back him up, but she refuses, saying everyone should mind their own business about who joins the class. She calmly asks why she should interfere, noting that it does not concern them. In-hwan grudgingly admits she is right but fumes internally that this is why she has no friends. Lee Hwee-young asks Seonwoo how he feels about In-hwan's complaint. Seonwoo answers that if rank is the problem, he will simply raise his rank. The teacher accepts this and tells Seonwoo to prove his skills in the midterm exam before officially joining. She specifies he must score rank 80 or higher, which he wonders if he can achieve. Later, Seonwoo tells Haeyoung that if he follows his plan, reaching that rank is possible, and she agrees to obey his instructions. He explains that the second-year midterm is a cooperative battle where pairs fight a summoned monster called the Green Giant. The exam summons towering green giants for students to face. He notes that each monster has a hidden weak point that can end the fight instantly if struck. However, the weakness appears in different places each time and is hard to detect. He recalls that most students simply withstand the monster to earn good scores, while top talents like Seo-jun and Yu-ara go further. Images show Aura unleashing powerful flames as part of such a synergy combo. Together, Seo-jun and Aura annihilate their test giants completely. Observers praise Lee Seo-jun's synergy ability and Aura's overwhelming firepower. Back in the present, Seonwoo, wearing spiked shoes, asks Haeyoung if they are ready to climb up the ranks. They vow together to fight their way to the top rankings. During the exam, Seonwoo tells Haeyoung to carve a path for him and she agrees, forming ice to open a route. She pours magic into the ground, creating a wide icy runway. Massive ice formations rise and clear a frozen path ahead of him. Seonwoo sprints along the ice toward the giant at high speed. Spectators whisper about him as the boy who once collapsed from mana depletion and was suspected of entering by fraud. His system suddenly awards him 1,000 points because hundreds of people are eagerly watching, expecting his humiliation. The outsider's benefit activates, revealing the giant's weak points glowing on their bodies. He now sees the purple crystals marking each giant's vulnerability. He dashes, his spiked shoes gripping the ice as he closes in. Determined, he vows he will not play the same losing role this time. His ice-charged attack slices through a giant, aiming for its weak spot. The blow hits home with a burst of light and blood. Another giant roars and advances as dark demonic energy seeps into the arena, confusing Xianwu. The enraged giant leaps to smash him with a massive punch. Xianwu, thinking the battle is easier than expected, continues readying more magic. The giant strikes near the spectator stands, making him realize something is wrong. He recognizes the dark energy and realizes with shock who is behind this incident. Xianwu spots Jionhei among the adults, understanding the mastermind has already infiltrated the school. He reacts quickly, gathering ice power once more. He launches another blast at a giant's weak point. But Jionhei mocks him aloud for missing and belittles him as the lowest-ranked student, while Xianwu wonders why the mastermind is acting now. Xianwu remembers that in the original timeline the fiends were supposed to invade the school later that afternoon, after the exam. Haeyoung screams a warning for him to watch out. He startles, realizing new danger is upon him. A giant's attack crashes down, shattering the ice floor in a devastating impact. Xianwu is hurled into the air as the battlefield erupts with ice fragments. Ice spears form again, prepared for another coordinated strike. Those spears skewer and freeze a giant, pinning it in place. Haeyoung rushes to the fallen Xianwu, shouting at him to snap out of his daze. Xianwu leans on Era for support as they move together, both exhausted from battle. Facing a roaring green monster, Xianwu gathers blue energy in his hand to attack. With determination, Xianwu tells Era to step aside so he can handle the enemy. Xianwu fires a powerful beam that blasts the monster away across the arena. The monster disintegrates, leaving Xianwu and Era stunned but safe. Spectators in the stands react with shock and surprise at what they just witnessed. The fight is broadcast live, and online viewers marvel that the school's lowest-ranked student used an advanced technique so skillfully. A man in the audience comments that Xianwu is far more capable than expected. The crowd erupts, excited that the match turned out far better than they anticipated and impressed with both Xianwu and Era. Era happily celebrates with Xianwu, telling their teacher they succeeded, while Xianwu responds awkwardly. System messages inform Xianwu that hundreds remembered his face, he earned achievements, points, and drew the attention or resentment of notable characters. But he thinks the test itself is not what matters now. Looking at the clock striking noon, he focuses on the critical time period he remembers. Seeing a suited man walking on campus, Xianwu realizes events are diverging from the original story. Students mill around the school gates, unaware of the looming change. Xianwu wonders if his actions are altering the original plot, and concludes that even the method of saving the school might change. The midterm rankings display Seojun and Era in first place, with Xianwu and Haeyoung in second. Era notices Xianwu sweating nervously and asks if something is wrong. He brushes it off as fatigue and tells her to go ahead to the training room so he can later give her feedback. Era assumes she must have made mistakes in the exam, but Xianwu urges her to be confident. He sincerely tells Era she performed perfectly today, leaving her flustered and touched. Era blushes and thanks him, clearly encouraged by his praise. As they part ways, she tells him to rest well and not worry about coming to the training room if he is in pain. After she leaves, Xianwu notes that his earlier intervention has thrown off the original timeline. He decides he must check how much the story has changed from the novel he knows. Heading toward a busy area of campus, he recalls that Seojun should be here at this time in the original script. Xianwu spots Seojun surrounded by people, exactly where he expected. Guild recruiters swarm Seojun with business cards, each begging him to join their guild. The Sigma Guild even offers Seojun an apartment lease and loudly advertises him as their ideal recruit. Seojun laughs nervously and explains he is only 18, too young to officially join a guild. The scouts insist he at least take their cards, saying they skip third-year scouting just to watch him. As the crowd presses in, Xianwu calls out to Seojun. Xianwu tells him their teacher Jang Ancheol is looking for him to discuss his results. Two scouts watching Xianwu's match discuss that the former dead last student fought very stably and shows strong growth potential. Xianwu smiles faintly, pleased that they view him positively. Seojun is intrigued to hear Xianwu being talked about. Using the excuse of not keeping the teacher waiting, Seojun dashes away, promising to hear guild offers later. Some disappointed scouts realize they almost had Seojun signed before he slipped away. Other officials decide to head back to watch the third-year exams instead. Young Hyunsu of the Special Task Force asks his senior how Seojun's fight looked. Team leader Kim Deokyeon replies that Seojun's performance was impressive. They remark that Seojun fought suitably for the third disciple of the famed strongest mage, Chairman Kim Jinchul. Deokyeon adds that Seojun still lacks real combat experience, and that they are only here to scout him for after graduation. Hyunsu jokes that he came because he regretted not speaking to Seojun during the Han River incident. Deokyeon muses that if Seojun had fought back then he would already have the combat experience they say he lacks, then asks Hyunsu's opinion of the last student who fought. Hyunsu says Kim Seonwoo, supposedly the weakest student, showed incredible combat sense. He reflects that Seonwoo's ability to instantly analyze an enemy's weak point goes beyond mere talent, and usually comes from extensive experience. Hyunsu, startled, calls out to his senior at this realization. Deokyeon laughs it off, saying it is absurd to think an 18-year-old could gain that much experience. Hyunsu then remembers Seonwa as the student Seo-jun once said resembled Mage Kim Ji-woo. He recalls that the remarkable fighter in today's exam was indeed Seonwa from Seo-jun's class. Deokyeon still finds it strange that such a young student can use powerful compression-type manifestation. Hyunsu decides he must remember the name Kim Seonwa. Elsewhere, a teacher arrives late from supervising her year and joins the group of adults. Parents, teachers, and guests gather outside the building, chatting about the earlier exams. Seonwa and Seo-jun sit on the steps, and Seo-jun thanks him for helping him escape the scouts' clutches. Seonwa says he wanted to preview next year's third-year exam and dragged Seo-jun back to watch it. Seo-jun complains he does not want to get cornered by scouts again, but Seonwa reassures him they are in a separate reserved area and came through a different entrance. Seonwa pointedly asks if Seo-jun wants to keep his rank 1 position. Seo-jun agrees to watch quietly so they will not attract any scouts' attention, and Seonwa concurs. As the third-year exam continues, Seonwa recalls that in the original story the main attack began in the third-year hall. He remembers that the attack location was chosen because it allowed easy contact with an inside collaborator. In that story, because no one knew when the attack would start, Seonwa planned to keep Seo-jun inside the exam hall while going to find the traitor Kyunhee. He thinks that is still the fastest way to protect the prophesied hero, then asks Seo-jun if anything unusual happened after the exam. Seo-jun assumes he means the scouts and says that sort of attention is normal for him, which reassures Seonwa that Seo-jun is fine. Seonwa concludes that the overall story flow remains mostly intact and feels relieved. Inside the third-year hall, the next sparring match officially begins to cheers from the crowd. Outside, someone reports that the scouts have entered the third-year exam hall. A silver-haired woman reading a book notes that events are unfolding exactly as their insider predicted. The suited mastermind asks her how the rest of their plan is progressing. Elsewhere, an accomplice reveals that they have hidden monster summoning devices all over the school. Another operative retrieves one such device concealed in a hedge. A muscular man comments that their monstrous ally Jin-san will go berserk upon seeing humans, so they stationed him somewhere remote. The silver-haired woman praises Yangian's work and says their plan only succeeded because Lord Kyunhee joined them. Kyunhee rises from the bench and says it is time to begin. He conjures a glowing purple sphere, declaring the start of their hunt for the child of prophecy. Back in the arena, a third year unleashes brilliant golden magic in a fierce duel. Park Minnie struggles to block the barrage of golden attacks. Overwhelmed, Minnie raises her hands and surrenders. The proctor announces Park Minnie's forfeit. Kim Chan-hyun is then declared the final winner of the match. Chan-hyun stands calmly with golden energy blades, having just secured victory. Watching from the stands, Seo-jun exclaims that the third-year exam is incredibly exciting. He analyzes that Chan-hyun is a model manifestation-type mage while Park Minnie's movements were razor-sharp, and Seonwa absent-mindedly agrees. Seonwa, however, is distracted, noting that he has scanned the arena and Kyunhee has not appeared as he did in the original story. Seo-jun notices his searching gaze and asks who he is looking for. Seonwa lies that he was just hoping some guild might try to scout him too. Seo-jun tells him he has grown tremendously since the semester began, and that anyone who saw today's exam would be shocked. He then starts to ask how Seonwa trained so quickly, but is cut off. Seonwa suddenly senses something and looks up in alarm. The entire seating area is bathed in purple light as a massive barrier begins to form around the stadium. Seonwa realizes in horror that a huge magical dome is forming, something that never occurred in his previous life. He confirms that this barrier event never happened in the original timeline, meaning history has changed. The scene repeats to emphasize everyone's shock as the purple barrier envelopes the arena. Seonwa thinks in disbelief that such an event truly was not part of the story he knows. He again notes that this phenomenon never happened in his previous life, underscoring how far reality has diverged. Someone outside pounds on the barrier, finding it solid and impenetrable. Onlookers outside the dome realize a barrier has appeared, wonder if something went wrong at the school, and call for teachers. Crowds gather around the glowing wall, confused and asking if an accident has occurred. Near the barrier, one of the hidden cases sits ominously beside a bench. The case activates, crackling with purple energy as if preparing to open. A rift of swirling blue-purple power bursts from the case, drawing the attention of nearby people. The vortex stabilizes into a portal filled with dark energy and glowing red eyes. From somewhere unseen, Kyunhee calmly gives the order to attack. Monsters pour out of the portal and chase fleeing civilians, who scream for their lives. The school's speakers blare an emergency announcement that monsters have infiltrated the campus and order everyone to evacuate to safe zones. The announcement repeats as the barrier around the arena glows, trapping many inside while panic spreads outside. Kyunhee smugly observes that all teachers, scouts, and combat-grade mages are sealed inside the barrier. He reasons that with no strong defenders outside, the child of prophecy will be forced to reveal himself. Inside the barrier, the special task force members viciously cut down monsters with their weapons. Kyunhee, hiding nearby, is shocked to sense something unexpected in the battle. Deokyeon stands over a slain monster with his bloodied spear beside Hyunsu, and someone wonders if the special task force has arrived. Students hear that the special task force is indeed at the school. Others explain that the task force originally came to watch Seo-jun's match, but are now busy fighting monsters and rescuing people. Inside the barrier, Seo-jun nervously wonders if team leader Kim Deokyeon is here, and a teacher urges the students to trust them until the barrier is broken. Sianwoo thinks that if the task force can join the fight properly, they might still turn the situation around, but worries about the barrier itself. He looks at the enormous dome and wonders how they can possibly destroy such a powerful barrier. Outside, someone pounds on the wall begging the mages to save them and regrets not entering the arena earlier. Support-type teacher Kim Yeonjin says that to immediately release the barrier they need another A-rank support mage besides herself, which they currently lack because such mages are rare. She insists they keep searching since doing it alone would take 30 minutes, far too long for those trapped inside. Hearing this, Sianwoo realizes relying on only 2 task force fighters for that long is impossible, and that the real problem is the barrier's strength, not time. He recalls that Kianhee's magic barrier is considered one of the strongest in the world. Sianwoo remembers that in the original story even Seojun could not defeat Kianhee head-on except by ambush. Accepting that he must intervene personally, Sianwoo steps forward and volunteers to try. Before he can act, something catches his eye and makes him pause. A woman introduces herself as A-rank support mage Yang Yangun, saying she happened to be nearby. Smiling, Yang offers to take over the barrier-breaking effort, and Yeonjin recognizes her as Yang Hyan. Watching, Sianwoo knows Yang Hyan is secretly a demon and thinks accusing her now would only create suspicion without proof. Yang Hyan begins channeling powerful purple magic into the barrier. She tells Yeonjin she will start and asks for assistance, and Yeonjin readily agrees. Spectators watch as complex magic circles bloom across the barrier while the 2 women work together. Seojun feels relieved that the teachers are addressing the problem and assumes they will be freed soon, but Sianwoo quietly says no. Grabbing Seojun's arm, Sianwoo insists they leave and promises to explain later. As they go, Yeonjin senses something strange about the barrier and grows uneasy. She realizes that when they release the barrier from one side, a second layer immediately reinforces it from the opposite side. Alarmed, Yeonjin recognizes that the barrier is actually getting stronger instead of weakening. Observing her reaction, Kianhee notes that the support-type teacher is very perceptive. He decides he must distract her and draw her attention away. Kianhee subtly readies his power, his hand glowing with dark energy. Meanwhile, inside the arena, Deokyeon and Hyunsu continue cutting down monsters as more rush them. Some goblins suddenly scream as something begins to affect them. One goblin's eye darkens oddly, hinting at a new threat or control. Despite that, the task force keeps slashing through the monsters in a fierce melee. Hyunsu curses under his breath as the battle drags on. Outside, a goblin lunges at Yang Hyan while she stands near the barrier seemingly vulnerable. A red slash cuts across, and blood sprays as an attack intercepts the monster. The goblin is cleaved in 2 by Deokyeon's spear, saving Yang Hyan at the last second. Deokyeon steps over the corpse, yanking his bloody spear free. He asks Yang Hyan if she is alright after rescuing her. Yang Hyan calmly thanks him for saving her, while he observes that she and Yeonjin are trying to break the barrier from both inside and outside. At the same time, Kianhee's glowing red-edged weapon or spell sharpens, signaling his next move in the unfolding confrontation. The task force battles goblins while the spear user unleashes a wide red arc, forcing allies to dodge. A junior panics that his senior was almost hit, but the senior says getting caught would cost him his task force badge. Annoyed, the spear senior and his ally charge forward with glowing weapons toward more goblins. The lightning-wielding man promises on the task force's honor to protect the support mage, who nervously agrees. The support mage smiles darkly and thanks him, hiding sinister intent. Elsewhere behind the testing hall, a student wonders why they came to this secluded spot. His friend explains they chose this empty area to secretly break the barrier instead of joining the front gate effort. The brown-haired student reveals that support mage Yang Yangun is actually a demon secretly reinforcing the barrier. Seojun insists they must warn everyone, but his friend holds him back, saying they lack proof. The friend argues Seojun's recognized barrier talent lets him prove it, though Seojun doubts people will believe him. The friend proposes that if he himself breaks the barrier, Seojun should spread the truth. He adds that if a world-class genius like Seojun speaks up, everyone will trust it. Seojun is startled by this trust. After thinking, Seojun agrees and asks if his friend can really break the barrier. Seojun draws his sword while his friend kneels on a magic circle, ready to attempt the release. A system message appears to the friend as his unique trait Outsider's Benefit activates. That trait analyzes the vast magic formula of the surrounding barrier. Yang Yangun senses something wrong and recognizes the grand demon barrier being pierced. Onlookers gape as the massive demon barrier high above the academy is penetrated. The friend presses both hands to the barrier, completing the release. He casually says it was nothing, leaving Seojun stunned by his ease. He tells Seojun they must quickly resolve the incident, but Seojun stops him with one question. Seojun asks why he keeps hiding his achievements when public recognition would benefit him, but the friend says he is satisfied as is. The friend asks Seojun to keep everything that happened there completely secret. The scene shifts back to calm daylight over the academy building. A task force leader angrily blames Yang Hyan for incompetently failing to guard the barrier. Yang Yangun is shocked the double-locked barrier was breached, as a red-haired teacher calmly praises her hard work. The special operations team announces they will handle the remaining threat from here. The spear-wielding leader fiercely cuts through goblins on the battlefield. He continues mowing down goblins while one shrieks and lunges at him. He focuses power into his glowing red fist for a devastating punch. His blows sends goblins flying and shattering the ground. A female lightning mage blasts more goblins away with electricity. She concentrates, eyes sharp behind her glasses, lightning circling her arms. Her magic erupts as a huge lightning pillar obliterates a cluster of enemies. The spear leader calmly clasps his hands after the fighting subsides. He compliments teacher Li Hyang on finishing the battle cleanly with her powerful one-hit spell. He thanks the teachers for cooperating and says their help made clearing the area quick. They reply that seeing the unit's skill was an honor. He notes they still do not know where the mastermind is hiding and orders an immediate full search once they regroup. The red-haired teacher says she does not know who the mastermind is but suspects someone. Yan Yangun anxiously clutches her clothes as attention turns toward her. The red-haired teacher grabs Yangun, demanding to know what she really did when lifting the barrier. Others try to calm Yunjin, but she shouts that Yangun might be a demon, shocking the crowd. Bystanders criticize Yunjin for accusing the woman who removed the barrier and question her behavior as a teacher. A task force member asks if they should step in, but his leader decides to wait and watch. Yangun mocks Yunjin, saying the barrier only took long because she had to match Yunjin's per skill, while Yunjin insists she saw something. Seojun points out that each time Yunjin dispelled the barrier, it mysteriously relocked with an extra layer. He steps forward, introduces himself to teacher Kim Yunjin, and confirms he was present at the third-year exam hall. Yunjin is amazed he noticed the barrier anomaly. Seojun simply says he sensed something was off. Seojun remembers his friend asking him to keep their roles secret. He lies that he just understands barrier theory well, thinking he hates lying to teachers but has no choice. Investigators remark that even Seojun doubts the barrier story, so they resolve to look into support Mage Yan Yangun. A hooded man watching the scene looks tense as task force members glance his way. Yan Yangun curses inwardly as her plans start to unravel. Surrounded by people, she mentally calls out to Master Chionhei, asking what to do next. A dark, purple-shrouded Chionhei appears and orders her to do what must be done. Seojun immediately identifies him as the mastermind and orders the task force to capture him. Seojun and the spear leader launch a combined blue and red strike at Chionhei. Their simultaneous attacks crash into Chionhei's shadow, creating a violent impact. Afterward, the spear leader remarks that Yan Yangun turned out to be an A-rank demon, making the situation serious. Yan Yangun, now revealed as a demon, decides that if the mission has failed she must take drastic action, turning on Seojun. Possessed men around them scream and start transforming into demons, causing panic. Yangun's eyes glow red as she fully activates her demonic power. She orders the transformed humans to kill as many people as possible before dying, while Seojun draws his glowing holy weapon. Seojun tightly grips the weapon, imbuing it with sacred light. Working with the spear leader, Seojun slashes Yan Yangun in a coordinated, bloody strike. Spattered with blood, Seojun tells the demon she chose the wrong place to attack. The spear leader watches grimly, ready to continue the fight if needed. One of the rampaging transformed men lies severely injured as healers and others surround him. Teachers restrain another possessed man with magic circles, reminding everyone this is the Magic Academy. After the battle, the spear leader thanks Seojun for his help and notes it has been a year since they met at the chairman's home. He praises Seojun's growth as a mage and tells him to claim his demon subjugation reward, leaving Seojun flustered but grateful. Seojun thinks he should have asked the leader's account number earlier to pay him back. While chaos still raged earlier, Seojun reflects that the real thanks belonged to his friend Kim Sunwoo, who broke the barrier. In another fight, Sunwoo activates his enchanted shoe, triggering blue wind magic as he moves. He uses that speed to unleash a slicing gust, clearing obstacles. Sunwoo is shocked to see an explosion nearby and realizes something terrible is happening. Horrified, he cries out in denial as he runs toward the blast source. Inside, Yuera stands amidst flames as a demon calls her the child of prophecy, while her friend cowers behind her. A white-haired man appears, identifying her as Yuera, second-year rank 2, and says her performance disappoints him. The man mocks her as a supposed genius rival to Seojun, implying she has not lived up to her reputation. As he toys with Era's frightened friend, he taunts Era about something holding her back from using full strength. The friend wonders how things turned so dire. The friend recalls that she and Era had just been training when monsters and demons suddenly attacked. Determined to help, the friend charges up blue magic, vowing to fight alongside Era. Era, wreathed in fire, tells her friend not to interfere and to run instead. The white-haired demon arrogantly declares he will handle Era alone, hurling a massive fireball. He sneers again, asking if that is all Era can do. As they clash, he concludes Era is not the prophesied one he is seeking. He seizes Era by the throat with dark energy, choking her. While strangling her, he revels in the high-quality mana in her blood and claims he can hardly restrain himself. Era struggles to breathe, her fire flickering as she weakens. Suddenly his arm is struck with blue magic, forcing him to loosen his grip. Era's friend yells at him to let Era go and bravely declares herself his opponent. The demon comments on their touching friendship as Era lies unconscious behind him. He sneers, asking what she thinks she can accomplish with such weak power, as he charges another dark spell. The friend fully understands she cannot win, yet she resolves she cannot abandon her friend just to save herself. With that resolve, she unleashes her strongest ice blue magic. Her attack tears through the demon's side, leaving a bloody gash. The demon's eye glows red in shock at being wounded. Realizing his injury is not healing, he recognizes the mysterious power she used. The friend is stunned her magic is not normal ice, and notes its mana cost is enormous. Exhausted, she collapses across the arena from the demon. The demon laughs, realizing she is actually the prophesied mage born to destroy demons, and exults that he has found her. Looming over her, he vows to personally kill the child of prophecy. A calm voice interrupts, saying that will not happen because the child of prophecy is too important. Sunwoo appears, activating Heart of the Great Nature and declaring the demon will be the only one to die here. The demon furiously tries to blast him aside with dark power, shouting not to get in his way. His power erupts in a massive purple explosion that engulfs the area. Sunwoo blocks it with a shining magic barrier, stating the attack will not work. The demon screams as Sunwoo's magic starts tearing into him. Sunwoo and the friend rain down spheres of blue energy, repeatedly striking the demon. The demon falls to his knees as his body begins disintegrating. In terror, he marvels at Sunwoo's overwhelming mana and questions how such a brat could wield it. Sunwoo explains coolly that he has more experience than he appears, pressing more power into the demon. The dying demon grins that at least Sunwoo will not die alone, hinting at a final act of malice. Sunwoo holds a glowing orb to the demon's head as the body crumbles away. Dark energy disperses from the demon's collapsing form. With his last strength, the demon lunges toward the unconscious girl, screaming for the child of prophecy. Sunwoo instantly prepares another spell to intercept the attack. His blast slams the demon away from the girl. Blood sprays as the demon is mortally struck from afar. Sunwoo looks at the magic still swirling around his watch-like artifact, surprised. A system window announces that B-rank villain Jin-san has been eliminated and causality has increased. Another message grants Sunwoo the title Savior and rewards him with 3,000 points. Sunwoo observes that the girl awakened earlier than expected but endured it. He thinks that as demons continue targeting her and Seo-jun, they will both grow stronger. Looking at the unconscious Yu-era, he silently notes her and Yun Haiyang's names. Surveying the ruined arena and fallen bodies, Sunwoo is simply glad they survived. News reports later credit Seo-jun, Era, and 2 other students with defeating a demon at the academy. In the hospital, Era scoffs that Seo-jun is being hailed as a hero despite doing little. Haiyang rushes over, insisting Era did a lot and urging her back to bed. Haiyang reminds Era that Era protected her from the demon, while Haiyang fainted in embarrassment. Sitting together, Haiyang says their injuries are minor and the school just wants them to rest now that exams are over. Era quietly admits she heard Haiyang fought the demon while she was unconscious. Haiyang asks why Era did not run when she had the chance, brushing it off by saying anyone would have done the same. Haiyang recalls being alone once and helped by Sunwoo, which made her want to be that kind of person for others. She says that memory gave her the courage to stand against the demon. She tells Era it is okay to lean on others when things are tough. The word rely echoes in Era's mind, stirring buried emotions. Era remembers her home burning down. In that fire, her wounded parents begged someone to take Era and flee. Young Era screamed for her mother and father. She reached out in horror as debris and flames consumed them. Back in the present, Era grips her bedsheets tightly, shaken by the memory. Struggling with pride, she says she does not need anyone's help but admits she should at least say thank you this time. Haiyang points out that without Sunwoo they both would have died. Confused that Sunwoo supposedly saved them, Era asks what that means, and Haiyang tells Sunwoo to explain. Sunwoo steps into the hospital room. Smiling from the doorway, Sunwoo greets them and asks if everyone is okay. Sunwoo visits the girls in the hospital room, saying he came to give them something. He hands Yu-era an envelope containing her 5 million won share of the demon subjugation reward, which surprises her. Sunwoo explains he is giving her the money because officials said she killed the demon, though she hesitates to accept it. He recalls that when he arrived the demon was already badly weakened by Yu-era's attacks and Yun Haiyang's support. Sunwoo describes the demon fight as fierce, while Haiyang is impressed and Era looks skeptical. He insists he only delivered the finishing blow, and refuses to take money earned mostly through their efforts. Yu-era tells him to split the 5 million won reward between herself and Yun Haiyang. Before leaving, Yu-era shyly thanks Sunwoo for saving her. Era and Haiyang watch him go, leaving a quiet moment behind. Sunwoo internally laments that his plan to get closer to Yu-era through Haiyang might have been premature. A system message informs him that Yu-era's affection toward him has risen to level 1, and he gains 2,000 points. Haiyang laughs that Era is only acting aloof because she is embarrassed, noting Era's strong pride. The system then offers a limited time 50% discount on a 30kg spatial pocket, and Sunwoo happily decides to buy it. Meanwhile, Yu-era storms down the corridor, fuming that Kim Sunwoo lied about something unbelievable. She recalls that when she lost consciousness the demon was still at full strength, so Sunwoo must have killed it alone. She thinks about how Sunwoo, supposedly neither manifestation nor support type, suddenly showed prodigious talent in every area. She also remembers Yun Haiyang's spectacular ability from the fight. Images of battle flash by, reinforcing how extraordinary their powers were during the demon attack. Era remembers being told that Sunwoo had helped Haiyang a great deal as well. She wonders why someone with such ability would live like a low-key underachiever, concluding there must be a reason. Era speculates grimly that, like her, Sunwoo might have lost his family to demons. Elsewhere, Haiyang looks out a sunny window, setting up a private talk with Sunwoo. She confirms with Sunwoo that he has not told anyone else about the mysterious power she awakened. A flashback shows his text telling her to hide her new ability for now so training will not become harder, which she agrees with. Hayoung enthusiastically declares she wants to study her demon-slaying power herself, and Sunwoo encourages her attitude. Sunwoo notes that compared with the original story, Hayoung awakened her demon-slaying power about a month early. He reasons that if she builds strength sooner, she will become a major asset in the future battle against the Demon King. Sunwoo resolves to safely raise Hayoung as one of Seojun's future companions and offers to create her training plan. Hayoung timidly grabs his sleeve, saying there is one thing she wants to ask. She asks if he rushed straight to the training grounds after the barrier fell because of her. Blushing, Hayoung lists the midterms and the attack, saying he always looks out for her. Sunwoo is taken aback as she hesitantly begins to suggest he might like her. She directly asks why he kept worrying about her so much during both the exams and the attack. Internally she wonders if he likes her, while Sunwoo is further flustered. Sunwoo quickly denies her assumption, saying it is not what she thinks. He explains he trusted her potential during midterms and ran to the scene only because he saw the explosion, not specifically for her. Relieved yet slightly disappointed, Hayoung accepts his explanation. Sunwoo teasingly asks if she had thought something else, and she frantically denies it. She laughs it off as a joke while Sunwoo thinks to himself that her naive, bright nature makes such reactions unsurprising. Sunwoo reflects that although Hayoung is important, she belongs with her own group, while he will focus on planning from behind. Hayoung tells herself she should not misunderstand his intentions, trying to calm her feelings. She then hands Sunwoo an envelope with 7.5 million won, insisting he at least accept this money. She calls it his tuition fee and says they will work together from now on, addressing him as her teacher. Sunwoo resolves to properly raise Hayoung while privately thinking kids do not understand the value of money, though it benefits him. Excited, he declares that training will begin tomorrow. Suddenly he notices something on his phone that shocks him. Sunwoo exclaims in surprise at what he sees, leaving Hayoung confused. His screen shows notifications that multiple people have transferred him large sums of money, and he wonders why everyone is doing this. Elsewhere, Seojun smirks over his own phone, thinking the others are desperate because they cannot give him their money. Time passes and Sunwoo steps into school, his shoes clicking as he walks toward his next goal. He narrates that after midterms he finally met teacher Lee Hyung's requirement by reaching 72nd place. He enters the special class lecture hall, a place he had never seen before regressing. The narrative introduces top third-year students Kim Chang-hyun and Park Min-yi. It then highlights first-year rank 1 Choi Seo-yoon and rank 2 Jeon Min-ji. Inside, classmates call Sunwoo over to sit near them. Era watches quietly, saying nothing as he approaches. Sunwoo thinks being in the special class will let him influence future key events, but is immediately grabbed as someone calls him a rat. Blonde student Park In-hwan mocks him for killing a half-dead demon and questions whether he belongs at their table. Sunwoo answers that he qualified by the teacher's rules. In-hwan threatens to remove him himself, sneering about Sunwoo's low 72nd place rank. Another senior shouts Park In-hwan's name and orders him to stop as the confrontation escalates in front of the class. Seojun defends Sunwoo, pointing out that Sunwoo's midterm time was 22.43 seconds and implying the class average did not actually drop because of him. Era coolly adds that if they ignore the very first test, Sunwoo's performance is better than Park In-hwan's, further undercutting him. She tells In-hwan he is the one lowering the class's level and should behave himself, making him seethe. In-hwan remarks that he did not know Era cared so much about Sunwoo but continues to act hostile. Losing his temper, In-hwan shouts that he cannot follow their advice and lunges to punch Sunwoo. Sunwoo catches his fist mid-swing, stopping the attack. Holding In-hwan's hand in a painful grip, Sunwoo calmly asks what happens if In-hwan cannot make him leave. Furious, In-hwan ignites his power, flames wrapping around his fist as he yells at Sunwoo. Before he can act further, a powerful blow from another person strikes him, stunning him. Young Hyun-soo, a special task force member, kicks In-hwan away and tells him to cool his head. As smoke rises from the crater where In-hwan lands, Hyun-soo checks if Sunwoo is alright. Sunwoo thanks Hyun-soo, noting that this intervention matches how the original story unfolded. Hyun-soo praises Sunwoo's midterm, saying he recognized his talent, and announces that the special task force will oversee the special class's activities. He casually orders others to wake In-hwan up, saying he expected trouble from him. Hyun-soo then worries privately that he might have gone too far with his kick, muttering about kids. Later at headquarters, Hyun-soo reacts in shock when told he must go work at the school. He reviews how demons who usually hide individually had coordinated to attack the academy, which seems highly suspicious. Discussing with another agent, he notes demons typically answer only to a king, and concludes an insider must have helped them infiltrate. Their superior orders Hyun-soo to cooperate with the school to discover the demon's objective and the traitor. Hyun-soo introduces himself to the special class as a representative from the association's special task force. Students ask if this means they will be deployed to real demon hunts or anti-terror missions. He says not immediately. Instead, he explains, under his guidance they will take part in missions scouting monster appearance zones. He warns that the missions have dangers and they must report anything suspicious right away. Inwardly he reflects that the area is actually a safe secret training field for the task force. He notes there is one dungeon there but it has been cleared, and surveillance magic circles will detect anyone suspicious. Because special class students have more freedom than others, he suspects the insider is likely among them. Sunwoo thinks this is probably Hyun-soo's belief too and takes note. Sunwoo, however, knows there truly is a demon insider at the school and reasons that the traitor will stay quiet for now. He focuses instead on the dungeon's hidden stage, where he must ensure Seojun gets an S-rank sword. During the coming activity he plans to support Choi Seoyun, who will accompany Seojun. Hyunsu ends the briefing with a loud declaration and his staff thumps the floor. He orders the students to form pairs and move to the operation area, while Sunwoo resolves to follow the original storyline exactly this time. Sunwoo worries that his unexpected addition to the class might somehow alter the random team assignments. That evening, he stands under the stars, realizing something about the outcome. He learns he is paired in Group 14 with first-year rank 1 Choi Seoyun, which surprises him. Seoyun, misreading his expression, wonders if sharing a group with her disappoints Sunwoo. Other male students glare jealously at Sunwoo for being teamed with Seoyun, grumbling that he gets her all to himself. Seoyun notes that unlike the others, only Seojun and Sunwoo do not seem excited to be paired with her. She internally complains that the one person who dislikes her is Sunwoo, not Seojun as she might expect. Seojun tells Seoyun they should head out first, and she agrees. Another senior laments loudly that he wanted a romantic outing with a cute junior as well. Nearby, Seojun and Era, listed as Group 15, talk while he calls the senior pathetic for overreacting. The distraught senior exclaims about Seoyun's amazing status as the only daughter of a prestigious magic family with both skill and beauty. Seojun dryly points out that Era is also from a magic family, while Era tells him not to involve her in the comparison. The senior insists Seoyun is uniquely special, different even from their Era. Another pair, Shin Youngjun and John Minji in Group 16, pledge to work together, jokingly using big bro language. Someone watching the sky remarks enviously that Sunwoo got lucky with his teammate. In the forest, Seoyun trails behind Sunwoo as they begin their mission path in awkward silence. Seoyun thinks that if both she and Sunwoo feel dissatisfied with each other, it might actually make cooperation easier for her purposes. Sunwoo recalls how far he has come since being last in school, now sitting in the special class and befriending Seojun's circle. Seoyun finally tells him his behavior stands out and looks suspicious. The system notifies Sunwoo that Choi Seoyun has become curious about him, awarding him 500 points. To break the tension, he points towards something in the forest and suggests they go investigate together. Seoyun agrees while inwardly vowing that whatever Sunwoo is planning will not work on her. She smiles brightly and says she hopes they cooperate well, while internally believing she can defy his intentions. Sunwoo, a bit surprised by her tone, calls her name to continue the conversation. Seoyun answers cheerfully, but Sunwoo privately thinks her expression looks like someone scheming again. He recalls that at this point in the original story Seoyun was fixated on recruiting Seojun because it increased her own value. Sunwoo decides to use their exploration as bait to draw Seojun in, believing this will keep events on track. Seoyun admits that after seeing Sunwoo's growth since his early humiliation, she finds him more and more impressive. She praises how strong he has become to enter the special class, while he insists his earlier fiasco was just a one-time mistake. Then Seoyun warns that forcing his way into the special class could be dangerous for him. She elaborates that by drawing too much attention he might create enemies within the class. Narration explains that although Seoyun appears to have everything, family, talent, and looks, there is another side to her. That hidden side is years of effort and obsessive training to meet her family's strict standards. Her father's pressure and that relentless drive are what forged her image of perfection. Outwardly she is kind to everyone, but she keeps close only those who elevate her status. This cultivated hypocrisy became her way of surviving the upper-class world despite the loneliness it brought. Back in the present, Sunwoo downplays the risk, saying he does not really think in terms of making enemies. Seoyun points out that even if they hide it, several classmates likely resent his presence just as Park In-hwan does. Sunwoo bluntly replies that he does not care. He tells her there is something he absolutely must accomplish through the special class, calling it his life goal. The phrase, life goal, shocks Seoyun, stirring memories. She recalls her father declaring he has already planned her entire life and ordering her to follow it. He insisted everything he does is for her sake, leaving her trapped in his expectations. Past and present blur as she remembers answering, "Yes, father," while now whispering Sunwoo's words about having his own life goal. Seoyun says she now somewhat understands why teachers favor Sunwoo, appreciating his resolve. She then pointedly asks what he can really achieve merely by entering the special class. Before he can answer, Sunwoo senses a sudden surge of killing intent from nearby. He shouts that it is dangerous, pulling Seoyun close and raising a barrier as an attack hurtles toward them. A flaming projectile slams into the ground where they stood, and he realizes they are under attack. They see that the assailant is Park In-hwan, who accuses Sunwoo of still not understanding his place. Wreathed in flames, In-hwan gives Sunwoo one last chance, ordering him to keep his head down at school if he wants to live. Sunwoo readies a glowing blue spell and calmly asks what happens if he refuses. In-hwan grits his teeth, on the verge of losing all restraint. He erupts in rage, screaming that Sunwoo should die as he charges in with blazing power. A magical purple eye opens in the forest, revealing remote surveillance. Through these conjured eyes, task force members watch In-hwan's fiery rampage from above. They also observe other students battling monsters elsewhere in the forest. Support Mage Baek Yijin, watching via the eyes, wonders if there really is a demon spy among these kids as ordered, while introducing himself as part of the Counter-Terror Special Task Force. The Special Task Force agents discuss that the students look like ordinary trainees and decide any demon spy will reveal themselves once the kids leave the training area. They order that any suspicious student, or anyone leaving the training zone, must be reported immediately. Using his magic eye, the agent spots something unusual among the students and wonders if one might be an insider. Through the eye, he watches the students fighting with desperate intensity, noting they are battling as if their lives are on the line. Observing Kim Seon-woo's group, he admits their magic output is high and worries that a prolonged fight with the rank 5 senior could interfere with their larger plan. Kim Seon-woo begins, channeling a strong wave of magic energy. As Choi Seo-yoon shields them with barriers, Kim Seon-woo yells at the rampaging senior to fight only during training and tells Seo-yoon to retreat. Seo-yoon furiously scolds the seniors for turning this into a disgraceful brawl born of inferiority complexes and screams in frustration. Park In-hwan, enraged and burning with power, vows to personally crush Kim Seon-woo. He unleashes a massive fiery attack on Seon-woo, screaming in jealousy that everyone keeps protecting that guy. The blast engulfs the area in flames as Seon-woo is hurled through the air amid the explosion. The monitoring mage curses that the magic circle they were using to watch the training ground has suddenly vanished. When the swordsman supervisor grabs his weapon to leave, the mage reminds him they promised the school the students would not be harmed. The swordsman insists he will stop the fight himself, and tells the mage to keep watching the other zones and report any incidents. While racing toward the disturbance, he realizes the battling students are Park In-hwan, Kim Seon-woo, and Choi Seo-yoon, a scion of a great magic family. Fearing for the kids, he hopes nothing goes wrong as Seo-yoon freezes herself in a giant ice barrier to block the flames. Park In-hwan rants that Seon-woo should have stayed a clown and that someone like him has no right to stand on his level. He charges again with flaming fists, determined to overpower Kim Seon-woo. Seo-yoon strains to maintain her ice defenses and realizes she can no longer contain In-hwan's attacks. Seon-woo reminds her he told her to fall back because it was too dangerous, and she reacts with surprise. Protected by Seon-woo's newly cast spell barrier, Seo-yoon looks at him in shock as he steps forward to face In-hwan. Seon-woo coldly declares that he will personally deal with Park In-hwan. He recalls that in his previous life he only watched passively while Park In-hwan bullied others. Back then he considered himself just an unimportant extra in the story. Believing he should not alter the game's storyline, he tried to stay uninvolved, though he resented Park In-hwan. Now he thinks of Park as a throwaway character and gathers a powerful orb of magic in his hand. Ice projectiles streak from Seo-yoon's feet as Seon-woo launches his spell. His barrage of icy missiles chases Park In-hwan through the forest, battering him from all sides. Shocked that Seon-woo even uses reinforcement magic, Park complains that if Seon-woo had a problem he should have fought only him. Seon-woo rebukes him for dragging innocent people into the conflict. He slams Park into the ground with a crushing magically enhanced blow, pinning the terrified senior with his foot. Seon-woo orders him to speak. Park looks up in horror, realizing how utterly outmatched he is. Surrounded by swirling mana spheres, Seon-woo demands a reason he should forgive Park. Park immediately begs for mercy, promises never to pick fights again, and insists he has admitted his wrongdoing. Seon-woo continues preparing his spell as Park frantically pleads to be forgiven just this once. Seo-yoon tells Seon-woo he is wasting mana, and he admits he never intended to hurt Park seriously. Instead of blasting him, Seon-woo merely smacks Park's head. He orders Park to run far away and threatens to kill him if he provokes him again, so Park eagerly agrees to leave. Park nervously asks if Seon-woo will also keep today's events a secret, further irritating him. When Seon-woo snaps at him for still lingering, Park flees while confirming that Seon-woo agreed to stay quiet. Sitting down in relief, Seon-woo admits the confrontation was stressful but thinks to himself that Park will now suffer in other ways. As Park runs from the training ground, he unknowingly enters the surveillance area watched by the task force. The mage urgently reports that student Park In-hwan is leaving the training ground at high speed. The swordsman's supervisor confirms the report and prepares his magic sword. Seon-woo smirks, knowing Park In-hwan will now attract the full attention of the special task force. While fleeing, Park worries about escaping Seon-woo, then notices ominous purple eyes tracking him. He panics further when he realizes the swordsman agent is now chasing him too. Back at the clearing, Seo-yoon cools Seon-woo with magic, amused by the situation. Seon-woo thinks the chaos he caused should be enough to draw attention without changing the story's progression too much. Seo-yoon scolds him for his reckless stunt but admits he looked impressive. She marvels that he managed to defeat rank 5 senior Park In-hwan and says his victory could shake up the senior rankings. While Seon-woo humbly notes, he only drove Park off by momentum. She still feels slightly sorry for Park, guessing he only wanted to team up with Lee Seo-jun, and thanks Seon-woo sincerely for saving her. A system message appears showing that Choi Seo-yoon's mastery has increased. Another message states that Choi Seo-yoon's interest in Seon-woo has risen by 1 point, surprising him. Seo-yoon admits she initially did not think much of Seon-woo. She recalls seeing him as an unskilled attention seeker at the start of the semester, but after watching his recent efforts, her view of him has changed. Sitting beside him under the night sky, she says he now seems completely different from the show-off last-place student she once knew. Curious, Seon-woo asks how she would describe him these days. She playfully calls him an interesting person, likening him to someone with the talent of a jester. After resting, she cheerfully suggests they continue moving. Seon-woo, who was enjoying the break, reluctantly asks if they really have to get up already. Seo-yoon insists they need to accomplish something so Seon-woo will not be looked down on by seniors like Park In-hwan, and she heads toward a nearby training monster. She walks up to a giant serpent, both of them momentarily confused by each other. Then she screams the monster's name and starts the battle. Watching, Seon-woo notes that it is only a training monster and prepares his own magic. Seo-yoon dodges as the serpent lunges, when a flash of light element magic suddenly strikes it. Realizing the light attack is not hers, Seo-yoon is shocked. Seon-woo smiles to himself, expecting Lee Seo-jun to show up at this moment. Lee Seo-jun arrives wielding a glowing sword and asks if everyone is alright. As he sheathes his blade, he remarks he tried to help with the situation on his own. Surveying the area and the slain serpent, he concludes there are no particularly dangerous monsters around. Relaxing, he admits he was overly tense because it is labeled a danger zone. Seo-yoon praises him as a genius and proposes her family sponsor him so his talents will shine even more. He laughs and says they can talk about it later. Watching them, Seon-woo thinks the timing and party members are now perfect. He reasons that as long as the major event where Lee Seo-jun discovers the hidden stage still happens, the story will stay on track. He reveals his earlier pathing was meant to guide Seo-yoon near the dungeon so she would naturally join Seo-jun when he reached it. Seon-woo points out a strange light ahead and calls everyone's attention to it. They see a glowing cave entrance emitting blue light. Seo-jun notices the light and realizes it is shining out from inside the cave. Seon-woo feigns curiosity and suggests they go investigate the light together. The group enters and discovers that the supposedly deactivated training dungeon actually contains a hidden stage. Seo-jun explains that such hidden stages are rare dungeons within dungeons, harder than normal but offering far greater rewards. Seon-woo confirms that events are unfolding exactly as he remembered from the story. He recalls that the Tower of Proof's hidden floor was also a type of hidden stage, where mystic mana accumulates. He remembers that in the original storyline, a hidden stage appears in this remodeled, deactivated dungeon. In that version, Seo-jun and Seo-yoon team up to defeat the boss and earn a legendary S-rank weapon. That episode becomes Seo-jun's turning point, gaining him massive fame as he shows off the S-rank weapon at a press conference with Seo-yoon at his side. The narration stresses that the more important outcome is Seo-yoon's growth, not just Seo-jun's weapon. In the original, Seo-yoon becomes Seo-jun's loyal companion after clearing the hidden stage, and Seon-woo has carefully prepared so they can still clear it. Inside the dungeon, Seo-jun wants to challenge the stage themselves right away, but Seon-woo initially refuses. Seo-jun argues they should report the hidden stage to the task force because of the many unknowns, while Seon-woo inwardly calls him too upright. As they debate, Seo-yoon wanders ahead on the stepping stones toward a mysterious portal. She stares into the swirling water beneath her, entranced. A close-up shows her eye reflecting the enchantment taking hold. A ghostly voice beckons her to step into the vortex, and a shadowy witch's figure mirrors her movements from below. Seo-yoon reaches down and touches the shimmering pool. Her body is suddenly dragged through the water as the magic pulls her away. Seo-jun and Seon-woo sense a sinister energy turn and shout her name. The ghostly witch's face appears, revealing the true threat within the hidden stage. The entity fully emerges, possessing Seo-yoon's body and revealing itself as a rank B ghost witch. Seon-woo and Seo-jun recognize it as a monster and rush towards Seo-yoon, yelling for her to snap out of it. The ghost witch claims ownership of Seo-yoon, clutching her as its vessel. The boys charge in, unleashing their powers to attack. Seon-woo realizes in shock that in this altered timeline the monster attacked first, meaning the story is already diverging from the original. The ghost witch raises a towering cyclone of ice and energy, overwhelming the chamber. The two watch in alarm as the portal and surrounding ice structures react violently to the witch's magic. Seo-jun asks what happened as he and Seon-woo process that Seo-yoon has been kidnapped by the monster. They decide to pursue her through another portal to rescue her. Seon-woo explains that if they wait, the ghost witch will drain Seo-yoon's mana and kill her. He reasons that once the witch finishes absorbing her mana it will become even more dangerous, so they must act together immediately. Convinced, Seo-jun agrees that they have no choice. He grips his sword, ready to fight. The two students dash deeper into the hidden stage to save Seo-yoon at once. Outside, the task force officer interrogates Park In-hwan, demanding to know who he conspired with and what their goal is. Park insists he did nothing, but the officer presses him on why he suddenly tried to run away. Park flashes back to Seon-woo threatening him and desperately claims he was in the wrong. The officer decides he can tell Park is hiding something and says he would have been lenient if Park had confessed. He formally identifies Park In-hwan as a second-year rank 5 student of the academy. On suspicion of colluding with demon forces, he places Park under emergency arrest, leaving Park bewildered. The officer radios Agent Baek Yejin that the suspect has been caught and should be taken into custody. Baek Yejin panics as new intel arrives that 3 students have entered the remodeled dungeon. Their surveillance magic shows the once inactive cave now glowing with dungeon light. The swordsman recalls that the dungeon was supposed to be deactivated and just an empty cave. He is shocked to learn a hidden stage has manifested inside that dungeon. Back in the icy hidden stage, Seon-woo's steps crackle on the frozen ground. A violent snowstorm swirls around the central area, signifying the empowered boss's domain. Seo-jun notes that the witch must be using the ice mana stolen from Seo-yoon to strengthen the entire area. Struggling with the cold, he worries he cannot hold out long at this rate. Seon-woo suddenly drapes warm gear over Seo-jun's shoulders. Xianwu tells him to wear the coat to stay warm, reassuring him with a smile. A flashback shows Xianwu buying winter equipment and storing it in a dimensional pocket, anticipating the hidden stage's freezing climate. Xiaojun, amazed by the dimensional pocket, asks how Xianwu could afford such an expensive item, and Xianwu casually answers that it was thanks to stocks. Xianwu then pulls out a warm coat through a portal, recognizing the still unconscious Xiaojun in the distance. Seeing her upright form ahead, Xiaojun is relieved she appears unharmed and urges that they hurry to save her. The pair run toward her through the blizzard, asking where the exit might be. Xiaojun readies his blade, alarmed by another surge of icy magic. A powerful attack sends him flying. Xianwu reaches out in shock as the battlefield erupts. Encased in ice, the possessed Xiaojun blocks attacks and the witch remarks on Xianwu's quick reactions. The ghost witch looms behind Xiaojun, fully controlling her as it mockingly complains that this is no fun. Xianwu's system skill warns of murderous intent from the possessed Xiaojun, and he explains to Xiaojun they must defeat the ghost witch to save her. Holding Xiaojun like a doll, the witch savors the taste of her icy mana. It proclaims that once it finishes absorbing Xiaojun, it will become even stronger. The witch then turns its power on the boys, declaring they are next. Xianwu notes that as an undead, the ghost witch is vulnerable to Xiaojun's light attribute even though the situation is dangerous. Xiaojun rockets forward on a beam of light to strike, while Xianwu supports from below. Xianwu dodges falling ice as he maneuvers into position. He resolves that as long as the witch inhabits Xiaojun's body, they must fight carefully. The narration highlights that Xiaojun, normally first-year rank 1 and a manifestation-type mage, is now being weaponized by the ghost witch against her own allies. Ice explodes underfoot as a girl dashes forward, initiating a high-speed clash. An opponent charges through the icy blast as narration labels his skill as a sub-specialty. Xianwu observes Choi Xiaojun leaping with an ice sword, identifying her ability as enhancement type. Realizing they cannot overpower the enemy, Xianwu decides their only option for now is to keep defending. Light and ice projectiles streak toward each other as Xiaojun and Xiaojun prepare to intercept the attack. Xiaojun blocks the instructor's blow while Xiaojun dives in, turning the spar into a three-way melee. The instructor breaks away and rushes Xiaojun directly as waves of ice spikes rise between them. Xiaojun clenches her glowing ice weapon, gathering more power. She slams her hand down to create a larger ice field, reinforcing her control over the arena. The instructor swings arcs of light that shatter Xiaojun's rushing ice attacks. Xiaojun retreats across the frozen ground while the instructor keeps pressuring her with sword waves. Possessed Xiaojun taunts the instructor, asking if he is going easy on her just because she looks like a little girl. She mocks his weak attacks and surges forward with a massive burst of ice power. Her ice pillars close in, forcing Xiaojun and Xianwu to defend together inside a narrowing prison of spikes. Watching her, Xianwu notes that her switch between offense and defense is extremely fast, and her ice attribute harmonizes with the environment. Xianwu dodges more ice attacks, surprised by the relentless barrage. Another ice spike erupts at his feet, tightening the noose of the frozen battlefield. He turns and sees the exit blocked off by towering ice walls. Surrounded by ice spears, Xianwu realizes the path is completely sealed. The witch, speaking through Xiaojun, smugly tells them they are trapped. Xianwu sprints while a rain of ice shards bombards the ground behind him. Under pressure, Xiaojun demands that Xianwu finally tell him the plan. Xianwu explains that they must locate and threaten the witch's true body so it will be forced to abandon Xiaojun. While they fend off attacks, Xiaojun complains the area is covered in indistinguishable ice and begs Xianwu to at least pinpoint the witch's location. Xianwu admits he does not know where the real body is. A flashback shows the original story where Xiaojun sliced through the entire frozen dungeon to kill the witch. Xianwu drinks an elixir and says that in the original plot Xiaojun defeated the witch by cutting through everything, insisting Xiaojun can repeat that feat. Xianwu uses an amplified mana elixir on Xiaojun, greatly boosting his mana recovery for a short time despite a later penalty. He turns to Xiaojun and declares that this time the one to perform that feat will be Xiaojun himself. Xiaojun reflects that he had treated this as a normal fight and begins reconsidering his restraint. In an interrogation flashback, a teacher scolds the chain bully for picking a fight and losing, and the boy shamefully agrees. The interrogating teacher regrets not investigating each student more thoroughly and confirms that the missing kid's incident is unrelated to the bully. The bully frantically insists he knows nothing else about the situation. Outside the dungeon, faculty argue over the promise of student safety while one admits fault, saying the hidden stage was unforeseen. They discuss rescue options, deciding to first try opening the portal from outside. Realizing they may fail, they resolve to rely on the students to clear the hidden stage and pray for their return. Outside the mountain cave, bystanders murmur anxiously as strange lights emanate from the entrance. A teacher hurriedly tells the gathered students to wait outside while the staff deal with the situation. Some students nervously talk about being trapped in a hidden stage and fear it means there is no escape. Haeyoung silently glares, vowing that if anything happens to the trapped students she will not forgive those responsible. Back inside, Xiaojun questions Xianwu's confidence while Xianwu levitates several bright mana spheres. Xianwu calmly answers that Xiaojun can unleash his full power here without holding back. The witch senses that one opponent's mana flow has changed and suspiciously demands to know what they are planning. Xianwu and Xiaojun are suddenly attacked from behind by a towering wave of ice. Massive ice structures crash down around them as Seo-jun slashes upward with light. Seonwoo shouts that Seo-jun no longer needs to hide his strength, and urges him to fully reveal his true power. Seo-jun recalls that the only time he swung his sword with complete force was in the past demon attack. He remembers again that during that demon incident he had fought seriously. He notes that he even held back during the recent midterm exam battles. Seo-jun thinks that if he gets too far ahead of everyone, someone might get hurt. Haeyoung had once warned him that overwhelming strength could cause collateral damage. Watching Seo-jun now, Seonwoo realizes Seo-jun noticed a subtle mana difference, and calls out to him. Seo-jun finally decides that they should both go all out. The witch laughs at their declaration and dares the human brats to try. As Seo-jun's power erupts, Seo-yun is stunned by the overwhelming light Seo-jun is releasing. Grinning, Seo-jun says he will live up to Seonwoo's expectations and raises his sword. The witch is shocked by the absurd amount of light attribute mana Seo-jun is using. Seonwoo orders Seo-jun to destroy the entire dungeon to threaten the witch's body. The witch's spirit realizes its true form is in danger and begins separating from Seo-yun. A pillar of light annihilates the ice structure deep in the dungeon. The ghost witch's real body is engulfed by Seo-jun's devastating beam. Seeing the spirit now outside Seo-yun, Seonwoo happily confirms it has finally left her body. The enraged witch reconstitutes itself above the altar while Seo-jun prepares another attack. It screams that it will not let humans have their way and gathers power for a desperate counter. Seonwoo, now crackling with mana, coldly says there is no reason to let the witch live. The witch looks horrified as their final strike approaches. Seo-jun and Seonwoo's combined assault cleaves the witch apart in a blinding golden flash. Watching, Seonwoo remarks that this display of power is exactly what he expected from Lee Seo-jun. Outside, mages frantically work on the glowing portal while their leader asks for a status report. The specialists report they have only analyzed a tiny fraction of the portal and that nothing, not even a mosquito, can enter. They admit that even with more support mages, this is the limit of what they can open from outside. One teacher decides he must take responsibility and calls his superior despite expecting a reprimand. On the call, the team leader learns that Seo-jun is trapped in a hidden B-rank stage. The voice on the phone nonchalantly says Seo-jun will get out on his own if they wait, shocking the teacher. The people around the portal wonder what that confidence means as they continue working. Suddenly, a huge beam of light bursts from the dungeon entrance, startling everyone. Students outside gape at the skyward pillar of light, wondering if a boss monster has appeared. Haeyoung instead recognizes the light attribute mana as something familiar. Inside, Seo-jun watches his temporary sword crumble and realizes it could not withstand his mana output. The group surveys the devastated arena where a massive crater and altar remain while Seo-yun lies unconscious. A new glowing weapon, the Blue Moon Sword, appears as elite loot from the Ghost Witch's defeat. Seonwoo insists Seo-jun should claim the sword since he contributed most to taking down the Ghost Witch and needs a proper weapon. Seonwoo covers the sleeping Seo-yun with a coat and tells Seo-jun he will guard her while Seo-jun collects the spoils. Seo-jun grasps the Blue Moon Sword's hilt, accepting it. Feeling its power, he realizes from the glow that it is definitely an S-rank weapon and is surprised Seonwoo gave it up so easily. Looking back at Seonwoo caring for Seo-yun, Seo-jun thinks that Kim Seonwoo is truly generous and admirable. System messages inform Seonwoo that he has cleared the hidden stage with a main character, raised Seo-jun's interest in him, and earned points. Examining Seo-yun, Seonwoo diagnoses her with severe mana exhaustion. He notes that Seo-yun herself is not strong enough to fight at the level they just saw. That power came from being forcibly drained and controlled by the Ghost Witch. Seo-jun returns with all the dropped items piled in his coat, handing them to Seonwoo. When asked his intention, Seonwoo says he plans to help Seo-yun recover, preparing an elixir called Heart of the Ice Spirit. He administers the elixir to the unconscious Seo-yun. Seo-yun's eyes flutter open as consciousness slowly returns. The boys anxiously ask if Choi Seo-yun is all right as she wakes. Startled, she jumps up in the oversized coat and demands to know why everyone is staring at her. Watching her energetic reaction, Seo-jun and Seonwoo comment that the treatment worked and she is lively again. Regaining awareness, Seo-yun clutches her chest and confusedly asks where she is. The boys explain that it is a long story and summarize that they are currently inside a hidden stage. Seonwoo cheerfully adds that Seo-jun defeated the dungeon boss specifically to rescue her. Seo-yun is amazed that someone their age managed to clear a hidden stage, something unheard of before. The dungeon core destabilizes as energy gathers to form an exit portal. Seo-yun and Seo-jun excitedly point out that the exit has opened and admire how beautiful the light looks. As they prepare to leave, Seonwoo stops them to say something before they step through. Exhausted from mana exhaustion, Seonwoo jokingly asks them to help him walk out. He smiles faintly, anticipating that he will collapse the moment Seo-yun is safely awake. Leaning on his friends, Seonwoo internally notes that he timed the elixir's duration perfectly. He decides that after this incident the public credit should not go to him but to Seo-jun and Seo-yun. The three of them support each other as they head toward the glowing portal, ready to return. Seo-jun walks with a quiet, satisfied smile, having finally shown his true strength. Seo-yun thinks to herself that Seo-jun and Seonwoo are the ones who must stand out from this incident. The trio emerges from the cave arm in arm to cheering classmates and teachers. Narration states that as the youngest person ever to clear a hidden stage, Lee Seo-jun again draws worldwide attention after the demon's subjugation. The Blue Moon Sword is later appraised and revealed to possess exceptionally powerful S-rank options, impressing observers. The International Mage Journal Oracle publishes articles highlighting Seo-jun's remarkable achievement. People around the world, including a noble girl reading in a distant city, read about Seo-jun's genius-level feats. In another country, a businessman notes how the world is beginning to pay serious attention to Seo-jun. Back at school, investigation results clear Park In-hwan of collaboration with demons. However, that investigation exposes his record of bullying other students, including attacking Seonwoo and Seo-yun. The narration declares that disciplinary action is taken against him. Park In-hwan is harshly punished and removed as a threat. Seonwoo reflects that the bully will no longer interfere with him, and that despite complications the story is still following the novel's original course. A flashback shows officials agreeing to keep the special class's secret operation classified. Seonwoo plans that this secrecy will allow Seo-yun to use the event to deepen her bond with Seo-jun. Back in Chibi style at school, Haeyoung tearfully fusses over Seonwoo, asking if he is hurt while he tries to calm her. Seonwoo inwardly notes that soothing Haeyoung's worries afterward was difficult. Thinking ahead, Seonwoo is about to plan his next move when Seo-yun enthusiastically runs up asking what he is doing. Smiling, she says Seo-jun told her something interesting and she came specifically to thank Seonwoo. Surprised, Seonwoo repeats that she heard it from Lee Seo-jun. Seo-yun explains that Seo-jun credited Seonwoo with suggesting her rescue and fighting fiercely in the hidden stage. Embarrassed, Seonwoo insists it was really Seo-jun who saved her and mentally grumbles that Seo-jun should have just taken all the credit. Flustered, he blurts out again that Seo-jun was the one who defeated the Ghost Witch. Seo-yun only smiles slyly, clearly not wholly convinced by his denial. Remembering everything, she looks at Seonwoo with softened, grateful eyes. Seo-yun cheerfully accepts his modesty, says she will see him at the next special class, and walks away. System messages inform Seonwoo that Seo-yun's interest in him has increased and he gains more points, leaving him worried that things are getting complicated. Determined, Seonwoo decides he must take further action given how tangled events are becoming. Meanwhile, another woman, exhausted from training, catches her breath. She resolves that she has to perform better during the next major incident. At the school gym, an upperclassman trains hard with weights. Seonwoo enters the gym with a subtle smile, eyeing the room. The shot widens to show various students exercising as Seonwoo approaches. Seonwoo narrates that simply by standing next to Seo-jun when they exited the hidden stage he earned a huge amount of points. He explains that he used those points to purchase a powerful new trait called Secret of Evolution and Adaptation. The trait's description shows it grants adaptive abilities like cold resistance after enduring harsh environments. Additional examples explain that staying long in darkness improves night vision and that while not explosive, the trait gradually raises many basic stats. Seonwoo notes that in the original story this versatile trait was meant for second-year ace John Min Gi, but since it was just in the shop he claimed it instead. As Seonwoo walks further in, classmates call out Kim Seonwoo's name to greet him. He waves back, saying he is simply taking care of his body now that life has calmed down. Seo-jun jokes that Seonwoo sounds like an old man and points out something interesting across the gym. The panel shifts to a group of upperclassmen talking together, hinting at the next development awaiting Seonwoo. Lee Seo-jun's Monday bench press routine is introduced, highlighting his immense mana-free strength earned through relentless training. The narration notes that his physical ability is far beyond that of the other kids at the gym. A memory flashes of Yu-era unleashing a massive fiery explosion while shouting for Lee Seo-jun. The boys gossip that Yu-era is crazy strong and plans to prove what real firepower looks like. Seonwoo says this motivation is good for Yu-era, since she excels once she has a clear goal. A student wonders why PE teacher Jang Ancheol, usually always in the fitness room, is absent today. They recall that the teacher normally spends every free moment doing bench presses in the gym. Another student secretly explains that Jang Ancheol is out patrolling because a blood-drained corpse was found near the school. The boys react to the idea of a demon attack but joke that their genius Lee Seo-jun will protect them. They cling to Seonwoo and dramatically proclaim their trust in him, annoying him. Seonwoo internally acknowledges that demons could raid the school again at any time because a hostile insider is already present. He clarifies that the infiltrator at school is not a human traitor but an actual demon. A close-up of long dark hair signals the approach of that demon in human disguise. Third-year ranker Park Min-yi approaches Seonwoo in the gym, commenting on how much he sweats. She hands Seonwoo a towel while he and his friends stand there flustered. Park Min-yi and Seonwoo share a brief, quiet gaze as the gym watches. Another boy flatters Park Min-yi's beauty, and she thanks him politely. Seonwoo thanks senior Park Min-yi for the towel, addressing her respectfully. She cheerfully tells him she is always cheering for him and encourages him to keep fighting. Her eyes darken as she quietly calls out Seo-jun's name, hinting at deeper intent. A flashback shows Park Min-yi sitting in a pavilion with someone, implying an intimate encounter. In that memory, the man in her arms suddenly begs to be saved in terror. The scene reveals she was actually biting his neck, vampirically drinking his blood. The drained victim collapses to the ground while she sits calmly on the bench. The narration exposes her true identity as B-rank demon Jang Yi, not the student Park Min-yi. She is introduced as the only daughter of demon Jang Han, a powerful figure among Maijin. A higher-ranking demon appears before her and Seo-jun's slain teacher, asking if she plans another attack on the school. The newcomer, Lord Qianhe, says he only came to check on her situation. He steps on the dying man's head and notes that, with Zhang Han dead, Zhang Yi is now alone. He coldly remarks that he must take good care of her as blood splatters. Zhang Yi, annoyed, says she wanted to play longer with her victim but knows they must avoid exposure. Lord Qianhe casually asks Zhang Yi how school life has been. She recalls being forbidden to take revenge on certain people and being unable to reach Zhang Haiansi due to her identity. She internally resents having to look daily at the faces of students who reported her father. She angrily asks what school feels like for someone like her, filled with hatred toward them. Qianhe says Li Xiaojun has recently become a major topic among the students because of the school attack. He reveals that Li Xiaojun was already a top candidate suspected of being the prophesied child. He recounts that when the demonic barrier fell during the raid and Xiaojun appeared immediately, he became highly suspicious. After Zhang Ye's report of overwhelming destructive demonic power, Qianhe concludes that Xiaojun is definitely the child of prophecy. Zhang Yi eagerly asks if she can kill Xiaojun herself, but Qianhe questions whether she is strong enough. She insists he does not understand the torment of seeing her revenge so close yet forbidden. In flashback, she watches her father's corpse and the students who betrayed him, unable to act. She vows that for her own revenge and for her clan, she will absolutely kill Li Xiaojun. Another powerful demon, Xianjun, appears and praises her ruthless mindset. Xianjun remarks that, as Jionhei said, she has impressive resolve for someone so young. Qianhe kneels and greets Lord Xianjun with fear and respect. Xianjun says Zhang Ye's power is still weak but accepts her as his subordinate because of her determination. He orders her to join the king's raid on the Child of Prophecy, stating that refusal is impossible, and is introduced as S-rank demon Xianjun. The scene shifts to Bakansan's Bakmajan dungeon, where Xianhua and Hayoung battle flying demon-type monsters. Yoon Hayoung concentrates mana into a brilliant blue sphere of destructive power. A close-up emphasizes the condensed blue destruction energy forming between her hands. She then unleashes multiple piercing projectiles that shred the demons in front of her while Xianhua supports her. The remaining demons tremble and appear confused or frightened. Terrified, the rest of the monsters scream and flee deeper into the dungeon. Afterward, Hayoung proudly asks Xianhua how she did, and he praises her improvement, advising her to master this form first. She is delighted that Xianhua brought her to a dungeon specifically to train her over the weekend. Xianhua narrates that he truly did discover this hidden dungeon by chance in his previous life as a C-rank mage. He notes that this dungeon never appeared in the original story and only he knows about it now. He considers the demon-filled area perfect for developing Hayoung's willpower and asks what she was thinking while using that power. Hayoung remembers her duel with Era and the intense desire she felt then. She realizes she wanted to protect the people next to her when she manifested that power. The narration explains that controlling destruction power requires a special, unwavering will, and that Hayoung's will has a particular focus. Hayoung says she now wants to work hard like Xianhua and join the special class, which Xianhua quietly acknowledges was his aim. Xianhua promises that if they keep training together every weekend in dungeons, she will surely reach the special class. Blushing, Hayoung thinks their dungeon trips feel like dates and says she would come anytime. Her rank rises from 82nd to 52nd after midterms, and Xianhua calculates that at this rate she will join the special class by third year as in the original story. A system message grants Xianhua a darkness vision adaptation, and he muses that the remaining unresolved issue is Zhang Han's daughter Zhang Yi. He recalls that in the original plot Zhang Yi approached Li Xiaojun seeking revenge for her father. She then acted as a villain, constantly plotting schemes against Xiaojun. But in the changed timeline, Xianhua and Zhang Haianzi killed her father instead, so Xianhua wonders why she still approached Xijun first. Watching her, he senses something is off about her current behavior. He decides that before Zhang Yi can cause more harm, he himself must take the initiative. The next day he deliberately arranges to meet her alone on a school balcony, planning his move. Zhang Yi, in her Park Min-yi guise, greets him by name, recognizing him as the student Xijun rescued. She approaches, cautiously channeling purple demonic energy in her hand, while asking what he wanted to say. Xianhua claims he has something very important to discuss and steels himself for his chosen strategy. Zhang Yi is startled when he suddenly acts, realizing something unexpected is happening. He thrusts a fancy notebook at her and bluntly declares he wants to stay in personal contact with her. The scene is labeled as his confession attack, showing that he intentionally manufactured a private situation with her. A system window announces that Zhang Yi feels disgust toward him, rewarding Xianhua with points and a first rejection achievement. Zhang Yi glares with barely contained rage at the unwanted confession. Xianhua blandly comments that he has been dumped. Zhang Yi coldly rejects him, saying he is not her type and suggesting they remain only senior and junior. As she stalks away furious, she thinks she would never date a mere human and even considers killing him. Xianhua muses that he is human but not ugly enough to warrant such disgust. Another system message reveals that classmate Xin Yangjin pities Xianhua, giving him bonus points, which Xianhua admits was his true target. Xin Yangjin watches from behind a pillar, shocked by what he overheard. He approaches and awkwardly encourages Xianhua to hang in there, explaining he only overheard while passing by. Xianhua tells him that someone as outstanding as Park Min-yi is worth confessing to even if rejected, but internally notes that it is because she is a demon. He then asks Xin Yangjin about a classical magic theory assignment, immediately guessing his friend has not started it. Shin Yangjin laments that physical tasks are fine but theory never sticks, so Seonwoo offers his own top-ranked assignment as reference. Overjoyed, Shin Yangjin agrees and Seonwoo says there is one condition attached. Seonwoo reminds him that he frequently uses the school community message board. Later in the cafeteria, students gossip about Seonwoo after a notorious post appeared on the board the day before. Others mutter that since Seonwoo could not stand out academically, he is now resorting to attention-seeking stunts. A system confirms that 247 people have taken interest in him because of the post, granting Seonwoo a large point reward, which he notes went exactly as planned. The controversial post is shown, where Kim Seonwoo publicly claims beautiful Park Min-hee as his and warns others not to approach her. Phone comments show anonymous students mocking the brazen confession but acknowledging Min-hee's looks. Two adults viewing the post chuckle that this must be how students confess love these days and nostalgically remark on youth. Meanwhile, a girl in the library happily reads from the ornate notebook Seonwoo had given Jang Yi, revealing his plan duplicated it for someone else. At lunch, Ha-young sulks that Seonwoo seems to like older women, while Choi Seo-yeon dismisses the rumor as an obvious prank someone pulled using his name. Ha-young still worries aloud whether Seonwoo will be okay amid the gossip. Seonwoo notes internally that this time he is not the one who posted, someone else executed his plan. He identifies Shin Yangjin as the one who actually made the board post on his behalf. Shin Yangjin admits he followed Seonwoo's request to upload it but feels the reaction has completely backfired. Seonwoo says the outcome differs from what he claimed to want but still perfectly spread his message through the gossip-loving student body. He thanks Shin Yangjin for the help, and Yangjin enthusiastically vows to keep rooting for him. As the girls enter the cafeteria, Seonwoo watches them while eating alone at the table. His eyes narrow, indicating he is carefully observing Jang Ye's reaction to the rumors. He thinks that no one would seriously confess in that manner, and that he simply needed this kind of scenario to arise. He reasons that though he has escaped being ranked last, people now see him as an attention seeker, making it harder for Jang Yi to move freely while linked to him. Seonwoo concludes that with his reputation already ruined, the damage to him is negligible. He cheerfully winks in Jang Ye's direction. Jang Ye's friends shriek in disgust at the wink, amplifying the social stigma around him. Seonwoo, sitting alone, admits internally that their reactions are a bit excessive even for his plan. The girls complain that nice pretty people like Min-hee always attract weirdos and tell her she should just ignore Seonwoo. Furious, Jang Yi thinks she must kill Lee Seo-jun but now all eyes are on her because of Kim Seonwoo. Seonwoo waves brightly and calls out to her, keeping up their public connection. Jang Yi grudgingly decides that although she wants to ambush and kill Seonwoo, she must temporarily retreat. Seonwoo taps the ornate notebook, signaling that something more important than today's drama is about to happen for Lee Seo-jun. He reflects that a major new event for Seo-jun is imminent as he examines the mysterious notebook. The story cuts to the American Museum of Antiquities, where security mages guard an exhibit at night. An announcement signals closing time as staff continue checking magical barriers around the artifacts. The head guard instructs his team to start night patrol after confirming everything is normal. Footsteps approach the central exhibit. The guard stands before the sealed soul vessel, a sacred relic said to imprison souls. A narration recounts that 13 years ago the world was ravaged by the terrorist group John. It explains how the group terrorized nations until powerful mage Kim Jin-cheol defeated them in battle. Jin-cheol killed their leader Jin Cheon-woo, and among the spoils captured was the artifact known as the soul vessel. That relic was later gifted to the American Museum of Antiquities, where it is now being inspected. The guard notes there seem to be no issues. As he checks the display, he hears approaching footsteps and repeats that the soul vessel is the museum's most important sacred relic. A mysterious, elegantly dressed woman strides down the hall toward him. The guard, assuming she is a remaining visitor, politely directs her to the exit while she stares at the soul vessel. She murmurs that the relic is too beautiful to be locked away here, hinting at her desire to take it. The guard warns that the vessel's power is extremely dangerous and should only be entrusted to qualified people, recalling the one man who once wielded such mysteries. He lectures that the Mage Association now safeguards the relic so it cannot be abused by former terrorists, and insists its power must serve the public good. The woman disagrees, saying great power should serve a greater purpose and accusing the association of hoarding it, her body crackling with yellow energy. The guard realizes too late he is facing a powerful enemy and is overcome with fear. He shouts for guards to expel this potential criminal at once. A massive enforcer named Scar smashes him to the floor, revealing more intruders. Another hulking terrorist strolls past corpses of A-rank mages, complaining that they were too weak and asking for stronger opponents. The shaken guard realizes all the dead security staff were A-rank mages and that the alarms only triggered after this massacre. A black-haired woman in red, wielding a long weapon, darts through the museum with lethal speed. She remarks to her partner that they had only planned to threaten the guard and steal the item, wondering when the plan escalated to slaughter. The surviving guard collapses to the ground, trembling. Looking up at the trio of terrorists, he demands to know who they are. One of them declares that although their god was taken from them, his will survives through them. The silver-haired woman mocks the guard for calling them washed-up terrorists. She prepares a glowing attack, telling him to pay for insulting their god. Horrified, the guard finally recognizes that they are members of John. A blinding flash of magical light bursts out through a high-rise window. The explosion shatters the museum and sends debris flying into the night sky. Siren-like wails echo over the city skyline after the attack. In a school cafeteria, a student receives an emergency alert on his tablet. All the students stop eating and check the same ominous news on their devices. The news report explains that the recent terror attack on the American Museum of Antiquities was committed by the resurfaced cult John, thought gone for 13 years. The broadcast adds that although records are damaged, authorities suspect an executive called Bert and demand a response from the Mage Association. Era stares at the report in shock, sweating as she reads. Era's friend notices her pallor and worriedly asks if she is alright. Era claims she only feels nauseous, excuses herself, and hurriedly leaves the cafeteria. Watching her go, Seonwoo thinks that something important is about to begin. He frames it as the start of the first battle against the main villain group. Determined, Era connects John on the news with the very villains she has sworn to defeat. In another country, a luxurious room displays rare artifacts, hinting at John's new base. A John member scrolls through the same news article about the museum attack and asks if the media coverage is satisfactory. Bert, lounging while being served tea, casually remarks that the photo came out nicely. Jean, the bespectacled strategist of John, jokes that all his effort bypassing security was pointless now that they are flaunting their faces. Natasha lazily explains that a rude curator provoked them by insulting their master. Smiling cruelly, Natasha says she made the curator pay with his life. Scar complains that the attack ended too quietly and longs for a more destructive rampage. He shouts that in the old days John would have leveled the entire block, revealing his name and brutal mindset. Jean and Bert chide Scar that times have changed and his impulsiveness is dangerous. Natasha reminds Scar that the Special Task Force and Blade of Dawn are still hunting John, while he insists he could fight them anytime. Bert suggests they move somewhere quieter for a while, confusing the rowdy pair. She admits Jean was right about her being hasty and proposes they lie low in Korea for a break. Scar cheers at the idea of finding strong opponents in Korea, while Natasha excitedly mentions visiting the Seoul Magic Arena and Jean falls silent. Jean agrees but says he wants to avoid crossing paths with Kim Jin-cheol. Bert replies that hiding in their enemy's backyard is the safest place and that no one will expect John to be in Korea. Picking up a photo of Seonwoo in uniform, Bert says she has something in Korea she wants to check on. She asks Jean if he intends to visit the boy in the photo, reminding him how important that child is to them. The group notes that the boy has been drawn into many recent incidents, and wonder what his supposed guardian Baek-eun-sung is doing. Bert decides they will go anyway, instructing Jean to prepare fake IDs and contact Baek-eun-sung. Smiling, Bert orders Jean to tell Baek that John will be arriving soon. That night, Seonwoo, in his Kim Ji-woo disguise, visits the upscale restaurant Kantia. Inside, he thinks it has been a while since he moved openly as Kim Ji-woo and assumes Haryeon's attention has faded. A system message appears that Haryeon has become more curious about him, rewarding Seonwoo with points. Led inside, Seonwoo reminds himself that before facing John he must further raise his own stats. At a reserved table, businesswoman Han Seon waits, looking bored. When Seonwoo arrives she brightens and greets him informally. Sitting together, she comments that he could have sent an agent, but he says he wanted to see her in person. She passes him a shopping bag and boxes containing sacred herb potions and high durability combat boots he requested. Seonwoo inspects the boots and reads their excellent stats, realizing how valuable they are. He's stunned by their dual passive effects and assumes their price far exceeds normal B-rank gear, while Seon says she chose something fitting as her personal gift. Their gourmet meal is served, showing off the restaurant's famed dishes. Seon explains that her motto, in gifts or in cuisine, is never to disappoint the recipient. Seonwoo recalls Kantia as the restaurant where hero Lee Seo-joon nearly fainted from the taste in the original story. Curious if it really lives up to the legend, he takes a careful first bite. The narration describes the pastry shell cracking and flavors exploding in his mouth. The rich mushroom sauce and hamu beef juices blend, creating an overwhelming flavor experience. As the red wine sauce reacts with the meat, Seonwoo's eyes sparkle and he internally praises the dish's crispy exterior and tender center. Moved to tears, he declares the food delicious, delighting Seon, who says his reaction makes treating him worthwhile. He wipes his mouth, trying to regain composure. Seonwoo insists he cannot accept such generosity without offering something of equal value in return. Leaning in, he hints that what he can offer might be better than money. He then brings up the terror threat note she received, asking if that is what has been troubling her. Shocked that he knows of the secret threat the company has not released to the press, Seon demands to know his source, and he evasively says he has his ways. She admits John's return has already sparked copycat crimes worldwide, adding to the corporate power struggle with her brother. Narration clarifies that the blackmailer targeting Seon is actually an unrelated alchemist, not John. Seonwoo identifies the culprit as Jo Sung-hun, an underworld alchemist exploiting Hanseong Pharmaceuticals' rise. Seonwoo advises Seon to investigate her security staff's finances to uncover the insider colluding with the alchemist, judging this level of meddling acceptable. Later, the two stand outside the restaurant under the night sky, continuing their talk. Seon silently marvels that Seonwoo knows information even she, an executive, was unaware of, and wonders about his mysterious source. She hesitantly calls out to him as Mr. Kim Ji-woo. Seon then straightforwardly asks him to work for her, saying she does not know his current employer but wants him on her side. She promises that with someone like him backing her, she would not lose to her brother and offers a massive salary and exceptional treatment. Seonwoo answers that he is not doing this for favors, but sincerely wants to help her. She laughs that it would be boring if he were won over too easily and lets the offer hang. As they part, Seon suggests another meal together and says she will return with even better terms. From a rooftop, Seonwoo watches the city and says he will look forward to that future meeting. He admits to himself that her proposal was tempting but decides he must stay aligned with Lee Se-jun instead. He upgrades his new boots to A rank, gaining an active air walk skill that lets him step through the air briefly. Delighted that the boots now have triple options thanks to a hidden stage drop item, he prepares to test them. He sprints off the rooftop, running through the air between high rises. Blue mana flares around his feet as he activates air walk mid-leap. Seonwoo soars forward at high speed, testing his mobility across the skyline. A wide shot shows him dashing over the city, leaving glowing footprints in the air. He lands hard on another rooftop, sliding as he adjusts to the technique. Panting but thrilled, he decides he needs more practice with his new movement ability. The next day in magic law class, students listen as the professor lectures at the front. The teacher announces a paired research project due next week, prompting groans, while some students doze. The class erupts in complaints at the sudden group assignment. One student begs the professor to extend the deadline, but the teacher refuses and dismisses class. Seonwoo calmly thinks that thanks to his outsider advantage he can finish the project quickly and rest. He scans the room for a capable partner just as Era approaches his desk. Era bluntly declares that Seonwoo will be her partner. The class reacts noisily, shocked that top student Era claimed the second-ranked Seonwoo so quickly. Glaring at the others, Era retorts that the best students will obviously team up if they can. Someone mutters about finders keepers while Seonwoo awkwardly accepts her choice. Era's eyes burn as she asks Seonwoo if he has any objection to partnering with her. Flustered, Seonwoo says he has no problem but wonders why Era is suddenly paying him attention. Walking away, Era tells him to meet her after school at the training grounds. Seonwoo thinks this invitation suits his plans, since he needed to assess Era's situation anyway. After school, however, he finds Era cornering him under an archway and sharply accusing him of hiding something. She insists there is no point pretending ignorance and claims to know Seonwoo's true identity. Stunned, Seonwoo internally panics, wondering what is happening. Era repeats that she knows who he really is and will not be fooled. Seonwoo stammers that he does not understand, while wondering which of his many secrets she might have discovered. A mental prompt lists several possible identities: hidden stage survivor, regressor, possessed person, Kim Jin-woo, or future event knower, and he frets over which one she means. Era explains that from the first day he talked about her private matters as if he already knew them, which felt unnatural unless he had investigated her. Stepping closer, she concludes that Seonwoo is just like her. She reveals her theory that he is also a victim who was caught up in John's terror attacks. Narration recounts John's history of massacring mage families and minorities 13 years ago while pursuing the power called mystery. It shows young Era's household as one of those prestigious families destroyed by John. Era and her sister are depicted watching their burning estate after their relatives are slaughtered and their treasures stolen. From that day, Era vowed to grow strong enough to avenge her family by killing John herself. She has spent 13 years relentlessly training her magic for that purpose. Back in the present, Seonwoo is confused why she assumes he shares that victimhood. She says her suspicion grew during midterms and was confirmed yesterday. Era recalls that when the news of John's return broke, Seonwoo alone stayed eerily calm, as though he had anticipated them. She compares that numb reaction to her own feelings whenever John is mentioned. Era describes how, after initial shock, a John victim secretly feels relief that their long-awaited chance for revenge has finally come. Now she believes that chance, to confront the terrorists personally, has arrived. She hears the warnings of older John survivors in her mind telling her not to act rashly, but her hatred simmers. Seonwoo counters that John is a group of S-rank mages they cannot possibly face at their current level. Era shouts that he should not lump them together with the many other victims by saying, "we," revealing how personal her vendetta is. Seonwoo gently argues that countless people worldwide have lost precious things to John, including her, and tries to calm her. Overwhelmed, Era insists that no one can truly understand the pain she has lived with for 13 years. As Seonwoo instinctively reaches for her, she remembers her sister's words and pulls back, saying, "No one." She then sees the bloody bandages on his abdomen where he stabbed himself for training, mistaking them for old trauma. Seonwoo panics internally, realizing the misunderstanding about his wound just became far worse. A system message notes that Era now pities him and grants Seonwoo additional points. Era says she can clearly tell a knife wound and assumes John's attack left that scar, deepening her misconception. Feeling guilty for dredging up his supposed trauma, she apologizes and starts to walk away. As a small apology, Era tells him she will handle their assignment alone and says she will see him tomorrow. Seonwoo is left speechless as she leaves without letting him correct her. He finally calls out, saying to forget the assignment and implying something more important. He declares that instead he wants to help her achieve her revenge. To persuade her, he reminds Era of what he told her on the first day of school about her potential. Flashing back, he had told her he believed she was better than other top students. Seonwoo now explains he meant it sincerely and promises he can help her become much stronger. He brings up their mutual friend Yoon Haeyoung, implying Era saw Haeyoung's growth and knows Seonwoo's guidance works. Era silently hands him a healing ointment vial, telling him to treat his wound properly so it will not scar. She says that despite his offer, if she does not end this with her own hands, her revenge will feel meaningless. She walks away again while Sienwa watches, unable to change her mind yet. As she leaves, Era quietly repeats Sienwa's name, clearly conflicted. She reflects that emotional wounds often manifest as scars and assumes his awkwardness on the first day was due to such hidden trauma. Era concludes that his strange behavior and scars must be tied to John's past attacks. Because she now sees him as that kind of self-sacrificing person, she resolves not to drag him into her vendetta further. Elsewhere, another girl calls out, "Sister," and questions what Era is saying, showing family concern. Era passionately tells her sister she wants to join any organization, whether the Task Force or Blade of Dawn, to hunt John once she graduates. Her sister clasps her hand and quietly says Era's name in worry. The older sister admits she only wants her remaining family, Era, to live a happy life instead of chasing vengeance. Despite this, Era marches across the academy grounds vowing to personally eradicate John so there will be no more victims like them. That night, Sienwa sits alone in his room under the window light, brooding over the day. A system message informs him that gaining the socially distant Era's trust and personal story has built kinship and earned him more points. Looking at the bloody bandages and dagger on his desk, he frets about how to resolve the misunderstanding about his self-inflicted wound. He recalls deliberately stabbing himself with the hidden stage dagger to acquire a new adaptive trait. The interface describes the weapon as a paralysis dagger whose poison can immobilize targets, and he notes he did it to gain paralysis resistance. The system confirms he has gained the trait paralysis poison resistance, while he cringes at how impossible it would be to admit he stabbed himself. Deciding that dwelling on it is useless, Sienwa turns back to training, believing that improving himself is the only real answer. Kim Sienwa sits at his desk, circulating mana around him as he trains his magic. He explains that every night he refines his mana, plans how to guide the story, sees John as an eventual enemy, and decides that helping Yu Era's revenge will benefit Lee Seojun. Determined, Sienwa thinks about laying the groundwork for his future plans. His skill Nature's Protection ranks up, improving mana recovery, and he resolves to display his power in the upcoming incident. The scene shifts to Yangwal in Gangwon Province, where students enter the Mercenary Experience Program. The program has students form groups, assist mercenary teams for 3 days, and Sienwa's group is assigned to help Black Flame's escort mission. Sienwa treks with the others through the forest, sweating but pressing on. He notes that a VIP client specifically requested Lee Seojun, which is why their group came here. Sienwa observes that Jang Yi is with them but assumes she will not attack Seojun among veteran mercenaries, just as in the original story. Still cautious, he decides to watch her closely on the way so she cannot approach Sejun. While hiking, Sienwa amicably offers Minnie a bottled drink. Minnie politely declines the drink but thanks him, trying to stay composed. He then offers her a towel, while she inwardly curses him and vows to kill Kim Sienwa someday. Other classmates remark that Sienwa has never been this enthusiastic, while Yu Era, exhausted, tells them not to talk to her and wonders how he has such stamina. Their friend jokes that his matchmaking efforts might finally be working between those two, but Yu Era and Seojun both deny it. A stern mage, Jong Hajun of Black Flame Team 6, calls everyone to attention. He announces that they have arrived at the mission site. Guards at the gates confirm them as allies and allow the party to enter the mansion grounds. Hajun and Seojun marvel that such a grand mansion exists deep in the mountains, where their mission will be carried out. Hajun leads Seojun and Sienwa to the mansion door, teasing Seojun that even a famed genius has probably never seen a place like this. Inside, he briefs them that the request is a low-difficulty mission from a famous artist. He explains that some of the artist's collection has recently been stolen from the mansion. The students are told they will assist Black Flame in guarding the mansion from petty thieves for the next 3 days. As Hajun talks, the students get distracted admiring the beautiful paintings lining the hall. Sienwa analyzes the art, explaining that the intense yet balanced colors show the artist's distinctive worldview. Yu Era asks how he knows so much, and he smugly replies that he just knows many things. A gloved woman eavesdrops from the stairs, saying she is glad they appreciate her works. She steps forward and introduces herself as Charlotte, the client who specifically called for Lee Seojun. Charlotte says she will be in their care for 3 days, addressing the academy students and Seojun in particular. She calls Lee Seojun by name with special interest. Sienwa recognizes Charlotte as the true villain behind this incident. The narrative reiterates Charlotte's introduction and her request for Seojun as the students look up at her. Sienwa mentally identifies Charlotte as the famous artist who hired Seojun and the villain of the current arc. A caption clarifies her identity as artist Charlotte, also known as John Burt. That evening, the story transitions to a different lodge where John's subordinates are staying. Around a dinner table, John's agents question a colleague about his behavior as they eat messily. One subordinate, Baek Eun-sung, insists he was loyal in his surveillance job. As surveillance officer, he claims he constantly watched Lee Seojun, imagining himself amid Seojun's excited fans. He boasts that he has thoroughly investigated Seojun's records and never missed a report. Another agent demands to know why Seojun keeps getting dragged into incidents, saying they need to see him fight to gauge his growth. Baek complains that the others are eating everything, insisting he would have intervened if Seojun were truly in danger. The team teases Beck's manners, asking if he even knows how to use utensils while they continue eating. Their leader snaps at them to shut up and eat, while one member grumbles about how that is possible with their mouths closed. One operative confirms the planned time and questions whether it is necessary to go this far just to observe Lee Si-jun. Another argues they could simply fight Si-jun directly and wonders why they must disguise themselves as petty thieves, only for a comrade to answer that Bert ordered it. Beck finds the idea fun and dons a mask, while their scarred leader says they must hide their identities to avoid Kim Jin-cheol's attention. The leader recalls Bert's instruction to go easy and avoid killing anyone, emphasizing that their operation must stay quiet for now. Beck nervously admits he is not confident. He puts on his cloak and mask to complete the disguise. The 4 agents, now in hooded thief costumes, prepare to infiltrate the mansion, agreeing they can still hold back their full strength. Back at the mansion, Charlotte presents an extravagant meal and tells the students to enjoy it without feeling burdened. She adds that they might have a tough night ahead, so they should eat well. The group thanks her for the food, some joking that this mercenary mission feels more like a healing retreat. Si-woo eats while casually comparing the meal to an even better restaurant he once visited with Han Sien. As night falls, Si-woo notes that although they are in enemy territory, the mansion is currently safe. John's disguised thieves will soon infiltrate for their own goal. He clarifies that John's objective is not terrorism but to test the extraordinary existence known as Lee Si-jun. Si-woo muses that if Jang Yu were to reveal her murderous nature, she would be eliminated immediately, so he relaxes and continues observing her. During dinner, Charlotte praises Si-jun as the youngest A-rank mage who cleared a hidden stage and mentions that he saved his honest-looking friend, making Si-woo flustered. Si-woo internally protests being called honest-looking. Conversation shifts to another student who could not join them, and Si-woo realizes some classmates came mainly to meet a celebrity client. Charlotte's lips curl into a meaningful smile. She remarks that Si-jun's family must be proud of his talent, and he quietly wishes that were true. Si-jun reveals he actually has no family. He adds that he did not lose them but has never known what kind of people they were. Si-jun says that if his family exists somewhere, he hopes they would be proud, while Charlotte apologizes for her insensitive question and says she understands the feeling. Yu-era, listening, is visibly shaken by Si-jun's confession. She lowers her head in turmoil while Si-woo watches her reaction. Charlotte confides that she also grew up as an orphan and describes the loneliness of that experience. She reaches out and gently places her gloved hand over Si-jun's. Charlotte tells him that family is something you create rather than are born with and encourages them to do their best together. Touched, Si-jun thanks her sincerely. The students collectively thank Charlotte for the meal. As they leave the dining room, the group chats about how moving Charlotte's words were, while Si-woo simply comments that the food was acceptable. Ha-jun reminds them of the mission briefing and orders everyone to patrol the mansion interior according to their assigned schedule. Min-ae approaches Si-jun and shyly asks to speak with him if he has a moment. Si-woo quickly interrupts, claims he has prepared an improved patrol route for Si-jun's safety, and leads him away, leaving Min-ae frustrated. Min-ae seethes at Si-woo for taking Si-jun, and another student notes how her expression darkened, suspecting romantic tension. Their friend imagines a love triangle diagram between Si-woo, Min-ae, and Si-jun and panics at the idea. He asks Yu-era what they should do about what they just witnessed. Meanwhile, Si-jun recalls his earlier words about hoping any future family would be proud of him. Yu-era, thinking of this, gives a short, annoyed grunt. She abruptly walks off for some air despite a classmate calling after her not to wander. Outside, Si-woo explains his patrol plan to Si-jun, starting from a corner of the mansion to cover the grounds more efficiently. He internally plans to guide Si-jun toward an area where no one else will be caught up if an incident occurs and checks if Si-jun has any questions. Si-jun says he does have a question about Si-woo himself. He points out that, despite claiming to lack mana, Si-woo used magic in the hidden stage as if he possessed an inexhaustible supply. Si-jun describes that aggressive barrage-style magic and says there is only one person he knows who fights in that way. He tells Si-woo that both his appearance and fighting style are suspiciously similar to the famed mage Kim Ji-woo. Panicking internally about everyone making this connection, Si-woo nervously asks if Si-jun actually thinks he is Kim Ji-woo. Si-jun laughs it off, saying of course not, and praises Kim Ji-woo as a hero who soloed a demon on the tower's hidden floor and is likely far stronger than Si-woo. Si-jun clarifies that he is more curious about who taught Si-woo that style, and why Si-woo encourages him to show his strength while hiding his own. He presses that Si-woo is telling him not to conceal power yet is concealing his own, leaving Si-woo scrambling for an excuse. Yu-era arrives, saying that Si-woo is not hiding his power by choice but is unable to use it freely. When asked why she is there, Yu-era claims she is just walking to think and snaps back that it is not against the rules. She explains there are cases where psychological issues destabilize a mage's output, creating a gap between mana capacity and what can actually be used, implying this applies to Si-woo. A flashback shows Si-woo losing control of massive magic in the past. Yu-era concludes that Si-woo is essentially rehabilitating to regain his original skills, not deliberately hiding them. The revelation triggers a system message awarding Si-woo favor points because Lee Si-jun now admires him. Si-jun recalls Si-woo drinking medicine in the hidden stage and begins connecting it to his supposed mana problem. He bluntly states that he realized the medicine Si-woo took back then had a different purpose. Si-woo resigns himself, realizing Si-jun has figured it out. He claims he hid this secret so others would not pity him, and at Chibi Seo-jun promises to keep it confidential, while Yu-era huffs. Flustered, Seonwoo excuses himself and tells Seo-jun to start patrolling from the mansion's corner as planned. Seo-jun lets him go to rest, agreeing to follow the suggested route while Yu-era watches. The focus moves to the quiet exterior of the mansion as the night deepens. Seonwoo thinks with relief that Yu-era's misunderstanding allowed him to dodge Seo-jun's suspicions. Alone in a hall filled with artifacts, Seonwoo notes how many valuable items Bert has amassed. He reveals that this mansion is actually one of John's global hideouts, stocked with both her own art and stolen pieces used to fund villainous activities. He adds that the mansion's true treasures are not the artwork on display but special items stored elsewhere. He focuses on a particular grandfather clock, knowing that John keeps the most important items hidden in a secret room linked to it. Magical arrays of concealment, illusion, confinement, disturbance, and sealing appear around the clock. Seonwoo activates his search function to locate a specific support item. The system identifies and materializes a lesser mana concealment elixir, which he takes into his hand. He reflects that everyone is preoccupied, so no one realizes an actual thief is already inside as he drinks the elixir. Cloaked by the potion's effect that hides low-rank mana for 10 minutes, he prepares to finish his theft before the third-party thieves arrive. Smirking, Seonwoo mentally addresses the villains he is about to rob. He activates his unique Trade Outsider's benefit and prepares to loot John's secret stash as an unassuming, honest-looking thief. Outside, Seonwoo repeats to Seo-jun that he is heading in to rest and reminds him to patrol from the corner route he outlined. Seo-jun cheerfully tells him to rest well as Seonwoo rushes off. Yu-era and Seo-jun remain on watch outside the mansion in the calm before the raid. Yu-era asks Seo-jun where he thinks Seonwoo would rank if he fought seriously, and Seo-jun guesses around 15th. She is dissatisfied with that estimate, and expected Seo-jun to better recognize Seonwoo's worth, making him wonder if he undervalued their friend. Annoyed, Yu-era leaves, telling Seo-jun not to wake her for patrol changes and that she has already shared the route via their handbook. The full moon rises over the quiet mansion, signaling the approaching conflict. Seo-jun reflects that sheer mana quantity does not define a superior mage. He recalls that true strength comes from how precisely one can manifest magic. Thus, he concludes that ranking Seonwoo at 15th was a conservative minimum rather than his ceiling. A memory shows Seonwoo effortlessly juggling multiple orbs of magic. Seo-jun admits that if that display represents Seonwoo's true skill, it proves overwhelming natural talent. Suddenly, Seo-jun senses another presence nearby. He spots Min-ae sneaking along the garden path. Recognizing her, he calls out to Senior Min-ae. Meanwhile, Seonwoo, back at the clock, notes he must work quickly before the third floor's thieves break in and act. He explains that his Trade Outsider's benefit can decode any magic formula placed on the clock. He understands that John, being powerful, could detect any mana leakage from this process. Therefore, he uses the lesser mana concealment elixir item, which masks C-rank mana flow for 10 minutes. Relying on this advantage, he uses a method only he can pull off to bypass the clock's wards while remaining undetected. Charging his hands with blue mana, he jokes that John will now be robbed by a diligent-looking guy instead. His trait activates fully, revealing intricate arrays as he begins dismantling the layered security magic. He discovers that if he disables the array completely, an alarm will trigger, realizing John installed a sophisticated trap. Instead, he tries to subtly alter the formula so that just one person, himself, can pass without setting anything off. Succeeding, he creates a glowing entrance in the floor and leaps into it. He lands inside the hidden chamber and looks around in surprise. Seonwoo recognizes this place as John's secret room. Display cases show rare items such as an ancient scroll. He notes that the same type of protective magic covers all the display cases. Grinning wickedly, Seonwoo prepares to strip the room of valuables. Outside, guards on the perimeter comment that the mansion is supposed to be robbed often, yet tonight seems strangely quiet. One guard tells his captain that something feels off about the uneventful night. Captain Jong Ha-jun, an A-rank mage of Black Flame Team 6, muses that given they are in a monster-infested region, the current calm does indeed seem unusual. While monstrous guardians prowl a deadly forest, someone doubts any thief would dare target such a place just for art. A guard tells his partner to stop overthinking and simply stand watch for their pay. The senior guard guesses the client only wants a fake robbery for insurance, and orders his subordinate to focus instead on recruiting Lee Seo-jun. A white-haired man shrouded in dark energy appears behind a guard, calmly praising his hard work. In an instant, the newcomer slashes through the guards, cutting one down in a bloody surprise attack. As the dark figure walks away trailing ominous energy, the fallen guards lie lifeless on the ground. The white-haired man's eyes glow with sinister purple power as he prepares his next move. He thanks a woman for leading him here, his body still wrapped in that eerie dark aura. The woman, Jang Yi, respectfully asks Lord Seongjin to let her be the one to kill Lee Seo-jun. Seongjin refuses until Lee Seo-jun's status as the child of prophecy is confirmed and instead orders her to guide them to him. Inside the mansion, Lee Seo-jun suddenly warns Senior Miney of danger. Seongjin swings a huge weapon at Miney, who screams as she scrambles on the floor. Lee Seo-jun charges in with his glowing sword to intercept the attack aimed at Miney. Miney grabs his wrist to stop him for a moment. Realizing it is Lee Seo-jun, Miney runs with him as he urges her to retreat inside the mansion. Seo-jun recalls that he had wondered why Miney was outside the mansion. He now understands that intruders have broken in after massacring the Black Flame mercenaries at the gate. He is further shocked to realize the thief is actually a powerful main. Feeling suffocated by the overwhelming aura, Seo-jun sees Seongjin fully unleash his terrifying dark power. Without even fighting, Seo-jun recognizes from the immense power gap that Seongjin is an S-rank main. Faced with a monstrous killing intent towering over them, Seo-jun concludes that fighting would mean certain death. Seongjin coolly notes Seo-jun's good judgment but says that sense is not exorcism power. Seo-jun drops to one knee behind him, cowed by the oppressive aura. Seongjin, sword on his shoulder, asks his underlings if all enemies outside have been dealt with as subdued bodies kneel behind him. A bloodied subordinate reports grimly on the situation near the mansion. He explains that all Black Flame mercenaries around the mansion have been completely exterminated. Seongjin then orders his men to kill every remaining student except Lee Seo-jun. Declaring that this is the king's order and he will allow no variables, Seongjin sends his corrupted mains rushing toward the mansion. Inside, a red-eyed student reacts in disbelief when she hears that an S-rank main is attacking. Another student explains that the Black Flame mercenaries are annihilated and hostile mains now surround the mansion, admitting Miney and the others were saved only thanks to Seo-jun. Seo-jun modestly answers that anyone would have acted the same, while a silent classmate looks on. That classmate silently cries, imagining himself stuck in a love triangle with Miney and Seo-jun and pitying himself. The group decides they need outside help, but Miney notes that Ms. Charlotte left hours ago to buy art supplies. Jang Yi thinks intensely of Lee Seo-jun, her eyes sharpening. She inwardly rages that she wants to kill him immediately but knows attacking now would be suicidal, and she cannot disobey Lord Seongjin. Another student complains that phones do not work in the mountains as he waves useless devices, while Miney watches tensely. With everyone despairing, they ask Kim Seonwoo for his opinion on what to do. Just then, they notice suspicious movement under a sheet-covered bed. Pulling off the sheet, the red-eyed girl yells at Kim Seonwoo for sleeping in the middle of this crisis. She is stunned to see that Kim Seonwoo is not there after all. Lee Seo-jun volunteers to go find Kim Seonwoo and sprints out of the room while the others watch. As the door closes behind Seo-jun, the remaining students fall silent, worried. Meanwhile, Kim Seonwoo grips a bundle of scrolls tightly, preparing to use them. Smiling before a glowing portal, he activates his final demonic beast summoning scroll, which can call forth a powerful hell serpent for 3 minutes. After loading his subspace pocket almost to capacity, he notes with satisfaction that he has completely looted the storage room. Among the